I will give you the right answers to all of these questions. In order to be a meat eater ethically, consistently, you got to bite the bullet on a lot. You should be able to fuck animals. You should be able to do bullfighting. The thing that irritates me more than anything in the world is when people will sit and look at the ape in the zoo or Cecil the lion and they start crying and they get sad while they're chowing down on fucking chicken nuggets and cheeseburgers. So I will give you consistent meat eater answers, but it's not going to be satisfying for you because they're going to sound sociopathic, which I acknowledge they will, and it's not going to be satisfying for the other meat eaters because they're going to think just because I want to eat meat doesn't mean I have to be comfortable with bulls being tortured in front of live TV, and I should still be able to be outraged on Reddit. The nuance of harm is the illusion that you tell yourself to feel better about the horrible treatment that animals go through on factory farms. Cows that have to stand up for the entirety of their fucking lives and kept pregnant so that giant suckers can milk their shit all day. That stuff, you just don't think about it, you don't care about it, and you're the exact same person as a Nazi living in Germany that didn't think about the Jews in the ghettos, or a white person in the USA that didn't think about the slaves making their clothes. You said you're a conservative and you value autonomy? Do you value the autonomy to like get an abortion or to let people do drugs, or the autonomy for illegal people to settle here as immigrants, or the autonomy for trans children to get beta blockers or whatever? I feel like conservatives are inherently like block so much autonomy.
We go by this like point by point.
Sure, yeah. Do you value the autonomy of somebody to get an abortion?
You only trust science that you can personally verify.
Well, I think that's important. I think when we get into a world that's so complex that it requires experts to tell you about anything, that is not a very good situation to be in.
Right now.
It's not a good situation to be in.
Are we not in a complex world?
Okay.
Is the world not complex?
You have a very Western way of looking at things, man.
My world is plant-based.
Yeah, well,
okay.
Well, I mean, this is an honest question, though. Like, is the world not a complex? Like, I mean, I think even you, Womp, even you would concede from your view, even from a fucking Amprim view, like, shit isn't as simple as, here's a fucking rock, there's a piece of meat that's running away, throw my fucking rock. Life has to be more complex, in your opinion, in your ideology, than that.
I'm super curious. How do you choose which things you don't verify that you trust?
Well, I would like to mostly rely on personal experience.
Sure, I understand you saying mostly there, but so for instance, you're talking to us on a computer. There's at least 24 technologies involved here that you have no way of vetting, right? I imagine you don't know exactly, you can't know every node that you connect to on the hop between here and whatever server Discord is at. You don't know how the semiconductor in your computer works down at the electron level. You don't know, there's a dozen or so different manufacturers involved, from the different parts in your computer to the different chipsets that are on each PCB. There's like a million different things that you interact with on a daily basis. When you turn the keys in your car, you probably don't completely understand the inner workings of a combustion engine. You probably don't know the exact timings of the computer. So at some point, when you go to a fast food restaurant and you eat food, you're trusting that the people behind the counter didn't infect everything with something, that they didn't mess with it. Like, there's this implicit trust that we kind of have to run society in such a highly specialized way. Or when I say specialized, I mean like the jobs are divvied up between different people in a very segregated manner. So when we're willing to accept all of that level of, I guess you could say, risk in your world for all these different like disconnected things, why does that trust stop at, I don't know, are we talking about vaccines or just medicine in general, or why would it stop there?
Pharmaceutical company.
Information in general, though.
So everything that you just brought up definitely concerns me.
Does it really though? Like, are you worried about this on a daily basis?
Yeah. Because, when we create demand for a computer, we're creating demand for all of the pieces required to make that computer. So we how many minds are created on behalf of this company to give me this computer? Right? Like, what's being created on the back end in the economy for the things I use? Like, there's a reason why I want to go back to picking fruit off of trees, because I can't trust none of this shit.
Wait, so then why don't you?
I'm going to.
But why haven't you?
Hasn't happened yet.
Okay, I'm kind of like leading you, but it seems like what my
we're coming out of winter right now.
Well, so do you think that like the society affording the ability to exist in winter inside of a shelter, there might be some like trade-offs that are unique to specialization that makes it worth like having some implicit trust?
Oh yeah, but I could give it all up, man. I don't really like it too much.
But at the end of the day, it's about reasonable doubt, right? I don't know with 100% certainty that Destiny is not an AI developed by Stalin. I can't know that with certainty, but it seems very unlikely that that's the case, right? And it's the same with any crazy conspiracy like flat Earth theories or anything like that. Obviously, there's no way that you could 100% know that, okay, Bill Gates isn't specifically, I don't know, targeting you with a microchip. But there comes a point where you have an Occam's razor situation where it's probably not happening. Yes, it's true that I guess 100% you can't trust anything you hear, but there's a limit of being trusting and being, schizophrenic, there's Nazis on the moon type of idea. You have to find a reasonable balance.
Right?
Hey, can I ask a question also about the back end comment that you made? So is your distrust mostly to infrastructure, the infrastructure that is required to make things like computers, to make things like cars and things like that? Is that where your distrust stems from, the infrastructure?
No, it stems from the destruction of the planet that we are dependent on for our existence. That's where the distrust stems from.
I find this to be such a hilariously human-centric view of things. Like, we're not destroying the planet, right? Humans could blow up every single nuclear missile. We could do all the horrible things, and in like 500 million years, the Earth is going to go back to like its own cycles. Like I don't know, like
we're not.
Yeah, the Earth's core is also eventually going to die out, and then life will cease to expand too. The sun will eventually blow up.
How many other species need to die for our fucking blunder?
That's happened multiple times in human history. There have been mass extinctions. That's just part of the human cycle, right?
Let's ask. I think a really good question is. I think a really good question is.
I would be real fucking ashamed if it was my species that did it, though.
The question is like, what does it matter? I guess, or why do you care about that in particular? Mm-hmm.
Why are you trying to downplay like the extinction of others?
Well,
because like it matters, because if it was our species, then we would care.
Yeah, but it's not our species.
Right now,
and also we're all going to go extinct at whether it's the death of the sun or whatever, eventually anyway, right? So I mean, like,
right now we're treating Earth's resources like a Minecraft anarchy server. We are mining this shit to death. We're killing everything on the Earth in order for us to have very cheap burgers and awesome computers. Right, and cars that fly everywhere as fast as possible.
There's also like,
okay, well, sorry. We got a lot. Sorry, everybody. Great, we got a lot going on here. All right. So, Mark, you want to ask a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is a line of questions. You wouldn't disagree with this. Like a tiger eating like a deer, you wouldn't say that's like immoral, right? Because the tiger evolved on Earth to have fangs and like have its body so that it can consume other animals, right? You wouldn't see that as immoral, right?
So let me explain some basics to you. Moral is your personal like compass, right?
Yeah.
So would I say that goes against my personal ethic?
Yeah, I'm asking you because you obviously.
Why would?
No, I'm asking you a line of questions.
You about your own moral framework within your framework.
So I'll just say yes. A quick yes or no. It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yes. Wait.
Well, you're asking a philosophical question. It's not a yes or no. I don't do philosophical yes or no's.
Okay. Do you think that it is immoral for a tiger to eat a deer?
It's such a strange measure to put on it.
Okay.
I can't believe you're struggling with that question.
Never mind. I thought I had a line of questions, but if it's this is going to go nowhere.
Welcome to the horseshoe.
Yes. Yeah, it would be immoral if it would be immoral if the lion had other food sources. If it could live off grass, then yes, it would be immoral.
Wait, but the lion's but as far as we know, the lion doesn't have a very complex brain, or at least like a very simple brain. It simply eats off of at least
I have a better example. My grandma used to own a ranch, and she had these little mini horses, and mini horses are evil little demons, and it would eat the baby chicks sometimes. Sometimes the baby chicks would get there, and they would eat the baby chicks. They were mini horses. They had fed. They had a whole thing of hay. It wasn't immoral for my grandmother's mini horse to eat a baby chick.
Do we think
moral? Is it moral?
It's a silly question.
Oh, okay. I can make it base. I'm so sorry. I can make it base.
Why am I judging the lion here?
Okay. You know what? Screw the deer.
I have a question.
Like, okay, is it immoral for a tiger? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, Mark's finish your point.
I have a question.
Well, no,
yeah,
Mark's
okay. Just base question. If this doesn't work, then I can fuck off. Is it immoral for a predator, like a carnivore, we identify as a carnivore, to eat meat since it needs that for life and it's evolved that way?
But wait. If it can't, like, if you're just a carnivore and you can't eat grass, yes. I will put the same standard.
I'm not asking.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I'm not asking you. I prefer prompt answers. I appreciate you.
Wait. What do you mean? I said.
Answer. Oh my god.
Are you saying so carnivores must eat meat to survive, right? To say that it's immoral would to say that they don't have a right to exist.
True.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, how about this?
Yeah,
if you would technically raise a pet dog,
so we're now
would it be
deep
wrong
into this
for a dog
vegetarian
to eat meat?
hunt?
No.
Oh my god! Shut
okay.
up. Shut up, everyone. We're like deep into this like line of questioning in terms of like this vegetarian line of questioning now. Like I thought.
Yeah, I'll explain it to you, Prime. Where I was going was he was obviously going to say it like no because a lion has evolved that way and needs to eat meat. And what I was going to say is that okay, since humans have evolved with seemingly to be bimodal and seemingly have a higher level of intelligence than any other being on the planet, and we can build like these complex civilizations and these complex hierarchies, would you not say that us having these systems, it seems that we in a way evolved that way since we are fundamentally susceptible to the whims of evolution in the planet? That was my line of thinking.
Okay.
Just having civilization.
But wait, I have a line of questioning. I got a question for Destiny specifically.
What?
Okay, so here's the actual thing. It's like if an alien species if an above alien species came down and were to like commence with the extinction of humans, what would be your defense against that? And like, how would you defend the aliens not extinctioning us, but we extinctioning other lower species?
I think that both sides can be having conflicting, competing interests, but both those conflicting, competing interests can be justified. I don't think you would have like a rational defense. Let's say, for instance, there was like one thing of medicine that existed in the middle of a room, and there were two people, and we say morally these people have equivalent lives, same number of children, they're both doctors or whatever, and then they both come up to the medicine, and then they both take out an axe and fight each other to the death for it. Like, well, who's right? You know, well, I mean, technically they're both in the right, but they have conflicting interests here. Some alien society came down and they wanted to harvest our planet. They thought they could do it in a more efficient manner than ours. We were like so many leagues beneath their intelligence. You know, we basically were insignificant to them. I mean, it would be hard for us to justify our existence in their face from their perspective. Now, obviously, we would fight for survival, as you would expect any creature that is interested in survival to do so. But it's not like you would necessarily have a rational argument to defend your existence if you're competing with them for resources.
Okay, but there could be a rational argument. Like you guys wouldn't have the rational arguments, but I guess a vegan would, because they would, live a life without extinction.
It doesn't matter. So the vegan wouldn't have it. Yeah, but what would the vegan do if the alien came to their planet and just killed them anyway? The vegan might have the moral argument, but he's going to get eaten anyway. It's not like, I mean, what does that do at the end of the day?
Well, power is power, right?
That wasn't my hypo. Well, I mean, if you're just going to die, then yeah, I guess morality doesn't count when you're going to die. But my hypothetical was specifically for a moral question like this. Like, we would have no moral defense of a higher alien species antagonizing us. But that's like okay, I guess, because
I mean, this is almost this is like the vegan form of like Pascal's wager. Like, we're kind of like saying, well, maybe we should be vegan just on the off chance that aliens invade us one day and they say, we're going to eat you unless you've lived a morally consistent life such that sentient beings beneath you have escaped extinction because you aren't eating them, and then we're not going to extinct you by eating you because you've been morally consistent, I guess.
The chances of something like that.
Again, though, like we're talking. But hold on, cut Steve though. But again, though, but now you're back to arguing moral arguments again, though. But like, if I wasn't mistaken, you already agreed that you operate off a relative morality basis. Like again, like making this whole like standard of like what we quantify. Okay, so you are positing objective morals. Then
I don't think he knows his morality.
Wait, you can ask me a question.
Yeah, like okay, yeah. So like, do you think morality is subjective or objective? It's not both.
I'll answer like this. Yeah, I'll answer this.
Or they're not both.
I act as if morality.
Sorry, go ahead.
Wait, can you define objective morality? Because I do think
objective morality, like layman's term, objective morality is basically like saying like a great example is like religion. Like when people cite the Bible, it says God says you shall not kill. That means you shall not kill under any circumstance, under any instance. You cannot. However, though, with our current society, we can operate off what's called relative morality, which is a subjective nature of it, and then we can operate more nuance into it, to where, well, you say you do not kill, but then what about like self-defense? Can I kill someone who's actively trying to kill me?
That's not quite objective versus subjective.
Well, I'm being very fucking.
No, I mean, it's like
very normy about it to get the point.
Okay, wait. Just to be really clear. So, an objective morality is if you are a moral realist. What you're saying is that a moral claim that you have, it like purports to report a fact. It is making a claim that is true. So, like when you say murder is wrong, that's like reducible to a fact of the matter. There's a fact of the matter that moral is wrong. It's not like
facts are about the universe. They exist within the universe and are discoverable.
It's not like I don't like murder. Oh, murder, boo. But you're actually like reporting a fact. So some people say like that's like objective morality. So more specifically, like moral realism is the idea that facts are being reported when we're making moral statements, or they're reducible to like some type of fact.
Saying morality is equivalent to gravity in physics.
Okay, sure, gotcha. Okay, so can I just pose one question and then I'll give you the answer? This would be specifically to like the two people who explained it. Okay, so I do think there are some like moral things that are just bad. Well, two questions actually. Can a tautology prove like moral realism? Can I say like an unjust killing is morally wrong? Would that prove like a objective moral truth?
So to call something, okay, so I think we would call this like a form of begging the question, right? So if we ask about an unjust killing, is that right or wrong? Well, the word unjust implies that it's wrong. So by saying, is an unjust killing morally wrong, we've kind of said, is a morally wrong killing morally wrong? And it would follow, of course.
Yeah, like tautologies are like morally useless statements.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So I would say, I actually do think there are some like moral things that are just bad. For example, I think murder without justification or any positive outcomes just be bad. Just like in its entirety. I don't know how you can debate that.
Do you know why why would it be bad?
Sounds like consequential.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think a more fruitful question instead of like objective versus subjective, what is your like philosophical like measuring? Are you like a utilitarian, consequentialist? Like, do you know?
Yeah, gotcha. I'll actually discuss this with Polar's World. I'm actually a threshold deontologist.
I don't know what that is.
Oh fuck! Wow, no, the veganism, the threshold ontology. This is ask yourself. Veganism server. Oh no.
Oh.
This is the weird, like, it just ends up reducing that to utilitarianism, man.
I studied philosophy.
We are regenociding animals over and over again.
Can we explain exactly what that is for everyone else?
Wait.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What are you guys going on about? Like, ask yourself.
Sorry, dude.
Don't even start. Okay, hold on, real quick. I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. In 2 seconds. Okay. So, normative ethics is like this. It's a boring way of saying like, what system can I use to figure out where what my rights and wrongs should be? And there's like kind of like two schools of thought, two major schools of thought. So one people will say that like, oh, well, like this action is wrong just because that action is obviously wrong. It's, in and of itself, it's just a bad action. And then other people say, well, let's look at the results of that action and we'll see if that's wrong, right? So the first school might be called deontology. The second school might be called consequentialism, or its most famous subset, utilitarianism. Now, some people will look at both of these schools and say, hey, there's obvious problems with both of your schools. Now, some people will write books and books and books about it because they're fucking nerds. And then other people try to find really easy escapes out of it because fuck all of these arguments. Okay, so for a deontologist, okay, for somebody that believes that actions are wrong, I'm just explaining real quick threshold deontology, and then you guys go over it. Okay, so a deontologist might say that like, oh, well, lying is always wrong. So the classic example posed this is, well, let's say that a Nazi knocks on your door and he says there's a Jew hiding in the basement, and you might say like, oh, well, you can't lie because a lie is wrong, and now you're fucked. So now we fucked deontology. Now you totally have to abandon this entire normative framework. Well, threshold deontologists say, well, okay, so deontology basically commits you to acting good unless there's going to be so much bad that comes from it that we have to do something different. That's once you've met a certain threshold, now your deontology breaks and it becomes some form of consequentialism, I guess. That's like threshold deontology. So you might say, like, could you kill one person to save two people? And a deontologist would say, well, no, we can't kill somebody to save any other people. That's horrible. That's a horrible consequentialist way of thinking. And then you might say, well, can we kill one person to save 1 million people? And it's like, oh, you've triggered my threshold. Yeah, you can kill one person to save 1 million. That's threshold deontology is the explanation for that framework.
Well, I know what it is. That's why I said that.
No, we don't know. Everyone else doesn't know.
Wait, can I respond to this? Because like, I actually don't think your example broke deontology. Because a deontologist would say like, yeah, lying's bad, but letting Germans kill Jews is worse. Like they would say like letting murder happen is worse. So that wouldn't actually break deontology. Do you have like a response to that?
Well, you wouldn't be the one killing the Jew. You wouldn't be the one killing the person, right?
Aren't those consequentialist appeals like out of the realm of deontology?
Yeah, it just bottoms out of consequentialism.
No, but even if you let someone kill, that would still be wrong. Like letting someone use your car to like murder a school, that would still be wrong under a deontologist framework. So even if someone else is doing the moral action, letting that moral action happen to other people is still wrong. So that wouldn't break deontology.
Well, no, I'm looking at
example.
Go ahead.
This reminds me of like rule utilitarianism versus act utilitarianism, where rule utilitarianists like try to make their rules so granular that it just becomes act utilitarianism.
Yeah, I was also going to say, I looked up.
Doesn't Munchausen's trilemma break deontology?
Yeah. Also, I was going to say, deontology says that an action should be performed off of like a series of rules, whether it's right or wrong, rather than based off of the consequences of the action.
This is all so much coke just to make sure.
But again, it just bottoms out of consequentialism
of this earth. Like this feels like bureaucratic morality. It's insane.
Yeah, it's kind of a moot
bureaucratic
point.
morality, just like a halfway question of asking like what's right and wrong. If you don't participate in the conversation, that's up to you. Like
it's about being fucking consistent with your shit. Like,
okay,
like if we're just gonna arbitrarily just fucking trade our shit all over the place, then yeah, there's no point in engaging.
It's ultimately a moot point. If you could go back in time and kill a bad guy, is that a bad thing? Well, you have no idea whether or not.
One time. All right, go ahead.
Pointless.
I don't want to murder this planet.
Is there a bad smell coming there? I feel like you guys are just watching a bunch of Dookie, and I'm like, I can't see a coherent point. So let me respond to the other one. So the other one is like, a doctor could kill someone and then like harvest their lives and save 5 other people. But a deontologist would say like letting those 5 other people die on your watch when you could have done something is also a moral wrong. So that doesn't break deontology either. So I do think threshold deontology is more like consistent, but I actually don't think either of your examples broke deontology.
Wait, sorry to interrupt, but this conversation will inevitably lead to, if you could go back in time, would you kill baby Hitler? And then it'll be.
No, it won't.
I was here for the veganism discussion.
If you're talking about a veganist discussion, to kind of circle back a bit, let me ask this: would you guys say that you're a human supremacist? As weird as that sounds, like let's say if you got to choose between somebody in this chat breaking a leg versus like a cat breaking a leg or a cow breaking a leg. Presumably, you would choose the cat, right?
You probably choose the funny part is you probably choose the human because they can actually communicate properly how to like properly repair their leg, and you can actually see better outcomes from the human breaking their leg.
Yeah.
Would you really? I'm actually very curious.
Veterinarians like have an incredibly difficult job because they have to try and like deal with medical problems with someone who can't properly communicate what those medical problems are.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is actually a good argument for why we need to care for animals more. They can't express their pain. They can't comprehend the situation that they're in when they feel pain. Therefore, it's unsettling to them to even be in that situation. Whereas humans can at least comprehend why they're there or why they're suffering that pain. And I think when people say, well, animals can't comprehend pain as well as we can, I don't agree that that's an argument for human superiority. I think, well, it is an argument for human superiority. I don't think it's an argument for like suddenly like not considering the morals of animals, because honestly, I think not being able to comprehend why you're being tortured for the sake of meat is more agonizing than at least understanding something like this is morally wrong. This shouldn't be done to me. The animal has no way of knowing that.
Well, that's sort of begging the question.
So human superiority isn't something we should argue for or against. Human superiority is a value judgment that some people hold, right?
So wait, just to be clear, this is like, as I'm probably the only, I think I'm the only person who doesn't eat meat on this. But wait, no, Ninetales doesn't. I'm sorry. But there's, okay, so we got two, right? But the point I'd make is like, as someone who doesn't eat meat, right, is that like, while we might like think things or have some experience or some feeling about things, right, we understand that sometimes those feelings can be irrational, right? We understand that like humans are incredibly pattern seeking. We have in-group out-groups, and one of those in-group out-groups would be humans, right? So, but when we think about these things realistically, right, like I would call myself like an error theorist, and what that means is generally like we both look at the idea that there's like moral arguments and the idea that like if you remove the consequences from like from an action, right, if you were to say steal someone and have no negative outcomes, right, there'd be no reason for that to be moral wrong. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with the moral, right? So realistically what we understand is that like the preferences of humans and the preferences of animals without these like being around are like relatively, there's no reason to distinct between the preferences or assign more or less value the preferences of humans and animals. It's just like, just because we have these in-group out-group feelings, that's fine. That doesn't necessarily like eliminate the argument that that there's no real distinction between humans and animals.
But there is. Wait.
Yeah. Would you sacrifice? Would you jump in front of like a truck?
What I would do doesn't have necessarily like
I know.
Like I just explained
kind of
what I would do.
Example,
yeah.
But like.
So what I would do might not necessarily like, because I have like in-group out-group feelings, right? That what I would do or what I should do in like context are like probably different, right?
I think that if we're doing like moral conversations, when you hear somebody say, "Would you do this?" I think it should probably best be interpreted as like, if you were to universalize an action or whatever, you know, should it be this, or morally, what are we like compelled to do? Because that's usually what people mean. But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, you kind of with that example, you kind of begging the question. I would have to ask like, why should we consider the feelings of animals at the same level or at a similar level to humans? Why should it be?
Why are they any different?
Before you answer that, just letting you know. Let me ask. Just before you answer that, Cutsleep, you've been muted for 10 minutes because someone doesn't like your take. You'll be back, though. But we do have a hype train going. If we could hop out this hype train, knock that out, that'd be fantastic. 4 minutes and then hype train, level 2. Let's see if we can get to level 3. But thank you very much. Go ahead. Get Ninetales.
Oh, Mark, did you catch my question?
You said, why are they any different?
Yeah, why are the emotions of an animal any less significant than the emotions of a human being?
I think that's asking. Well, I'll answer it. Well, I consider them different because they're different species, and in my opinion, I think we should prioritize the feelings of the human species because off my personal axioms, I value humans over than any animal.
So what makes you feel that way?
Okay, wait, that's kind of tough. If you want me to explain, I was trying to make it short, but if you want me to explain it, I can.
I have a question for the vegans actually. Is there no moral distinction between like smashing a fly or in killing a cow, or are those equivalent acts?
I mean, someone else.
It depends on like. Well, no, so it depends on like what you value, right? In terms of like preferences, not really. No, there's no like underlying moral reason as to why.
On the Earth right now, annually, we kill about 16 billion living creatures annually. 16 billion. Now, most humans can't wrinkle their brain enough to think of even what a billion of anything is. But imagine a stadium full of toothpicks, okay? It's a fucking lot, all right? So that means in 1 year, we have slaughtering 16 billion. That means we have to keep an extra amount alive, right? So annually, we have to murder all of these animals, but we also have to feed them, fuck them, and keep them, coming, so we can keep killing them.
On the fly question.
Y'all, the question is that ethical? Is that ethical? I want all these people with all these extra superfluous words to tell me exactly how that's ethical.
Destiny?
It's ethical.
I don't know for the
animals. One second. Destiny, go ahead.
Just real quick. Okay, on the vegan question for the two vegans. Okay, so I don't know where you guys are coming from. The standard vegan response that I usually hear is, as a vegan, you're very, very starting, like your meta-ethical or axioms are going to start at like, we ought to value all sentient life. That's usually where most vegans start. So if you're valuing sentience, you're looking for an experience like ours. If you look at flies or insects, they generally lack the central nervous system required to have an experience that seems to be like ours. So usually, I think most vegans aren't for like harvesting insects. So for instance, like bees, like farming bees for honey, unless it's done in an ethical manner. But usually they'll say there's not really a moral equivalence between something that doesn't have a central nervous system like a fly or a plant compared to like a fully functioning mammal that seems to have an experience more similar to ours. I think is how most vegans would normally answer the fly question.
Plus, so just to be clear, I don't necessarily like value sentience, right? I'm like, I'm an error theorist. I just like hold like a Rawlsian position on the whole like if we started society from ground and we were given any position, anybody, like what we prefer. That's it.
Are you a Janus? Do you like sweep bugs out of your way and stuff?
Well, I was actually
tried it,
I was going to say like I do agree that sentience is very meaningful in this, and sentient beings are entitled to universal rights, some of which are the same ones that we are. However, I think it's also just morally better if you can put the fly outside instead of killing it. However, I think if you accidentally kill something because you sat on a bug, that's out of your control. And if you would have avoided that if you could, then that's optimal.
I mean, that's sort of not the question I'm asking. The question I'm asking is like,
I know
someone comes and puts a gun to your head and is like, kill this, press this button, it kills this fly, press this button, it kills this cow. You must press one button or I will kill you and your family or something like that. Yeah.
I'd kill the fly. There'd be less suffering and less experience of that suffering.
But if you kill the cow, you get more meat and burgers.
90 seconds left on that. 90 seconds left on that hype train. 1 second. 90 seconds left on that hype train. If you could help us out, 90 seconds left on the hype train. If you could help us out to get to level 4, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll continue on with this. Sorry. Good. You want to say something, Gash?
So Ninetails, do you see that same distinction between like humans and like fish, for example, necessarily?
Sort of. It depends. What situation are we referring to?
The exact same scenario, say.
I don't know. If we're like, I don't use utility to base things. If someone held a gun to my head, I guess I would. Yeah, I would apply the same thing to humans.
Okay.
Although
so
you're putting me into you're putting me into an increasingly moral dilemma where the more more closer you get to like two relatively sentient beings that are comparable, the less like black and white this becomes.
Yeah, the point is just to determine like what matters with respect to the life, right? Like,
okay,
are there gradients? And the answer seems to be yes.
I think at some point too, I think it's important that even if you have complete and total moral equivalence between two things, it's probably okay to choose based on locality. Like for instance, like let's say you have totally two equivalent like human moral lives, but one is like your neighbor or your mother, and the other is like a stranger from the other end of the world. Even if these lives are morally equivalent, you might favor or prefer one over the other, such that if you were like commanded to kill one, you would always choose the less local life too. So comparing like a cow to a human, even if you both consider them to have somewhat of a moral equivalence, if you have a closer relationship to a human, you'd probably choose the human. If you have the closer relationship to like a dog or a stranger, you might choose the dog. Right? Which I think is
we're talking about an appeal to emotion though with that.
Ninetails, out of curiosity, would you consider it unethical that humans domesticated some animals? Would you consider that actually unethical?
It was necessary at some point, but at some point the continuation and never end expansion of it provided some sort of a moral issue.
Was it necessary to survive or necessary to progress?
Survive.
So a further question.
Okay.
If I can interject just real quick. So do you think that now, today, in the world today, that there is an ethical level of livestock and domestication that we can sustain that would be ethical in the vegan's point of view, or are you for eliminating it all?
Across the world, I'd say yes, because there are definitely places that can't just live vegan right off the bat. When it comes to countries that can sustain that, can like produce plant proteins or like meat alternatives, I say to the degree that they can produce those things, it would be unethical for them to continue eating animals.
Also, I kind of want to push back Ninetails for like the domesticated animals. Like, I guess necessarily when we domesticated like cows or such, like we could have just stayed like hunters and gatherers. There's no problem with that. We didn't necessarily need animals to survive, at least the domestication of them.
I disagree. I think the cost benefit of like living off of plants would have been far worse, and especially in like, I'm terrible with words about history, but primal times. I'm sorry if that's a problematic word. I can't think of anything better at the moment. We just didn't have like, first of all, the nutritional understanding of things to actually provide ourselves a proper vegan diet. But also, like, this was somewhat being done in places where it could be sustained, but I just don't know if it's sustainable everywhere.
Why are we talking about
crazy?
Yeah, so it's progression, right? I just want to clarify.
just to clarify, just real quick. So you don't think that in a country that can survive off plants and other things, and I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong terms for vegans, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm just curious. So there is no, even if we reduce, if we have ethical livestock practices where the animals are cared for and they are not treated egregiously, the fact that we eat them, just period, is immoral.
Well, ethical livestock practices is like an absolute misnomer, right? Like, if you ask any vegan, right, that like ideally you'd want to like wean off it as soon as possible. And it seems like a lot of these countries were like had food sources outside of that, but realistically, the best way we're going to be able to get to a plant-based society, I guess, is to create like market alternatives. So much like whale oil and electricity, right? We didn't get rid of whale oil until we got electricity, which was a better market solution. It seems like as we advance forward on plant-based food through a market solution, that we're not going to see any kind of like massive switch over to plant-based in any time soon. We've still got to achieve some market level and some technology level before we actually get to a preferable state.
Let's step back and watch. Go ahead. Let's step back to basic economics for 1 second. It takes about 10 calories of vegetable to produce about 1 calorie of meat. So if you can afford to have meat in your diet, you can definitely, well, in most cases, afford to have vegetables in your diet.
What the animals eat might not necessarily be what humans can eat because they're ruminaries, right?
Yeah, how does that
possibly? We can't eat the grassland of the cows, right? But if there weren't cows there, we could have grown something on there probably.
This seems like absolute perfect, right? Like if you don't have any way to grow anything else or any seeds to grow anything else, right? You have the grasslands and you can raise cattle, but you can't have any of these other things, then that's going to be like preferable, right? Not every condition is going to be perfect for every vegetable in defense, right?
Yeah, like living off of rice, although ideal, has its limitations eventually.
Go ahead.
Yeah, to be fair, the Japanese had to wean away from doing that.
Hold on 1 second. We'll go to FK, then we'll go to cut sleeve. Yeah.
Oh wait, we're going to me?
Oh no, sorry, no, the other one. Sorry, Durham. I apologize. You're muted. You're muted, buddy. Durham, you're muted. Okay, never mind.
I'm not muted. I thought someone said ahead of me.
No, you go
okay.
top, please. Oh my god.
Well, okay. Just because we could survive off it. Look, all of us are here on our computer or on our phone with internets that we use. We could all survive in a tent. We could all survive in a hunter-gatherer society. What does that matter? Just because hunting animals, okay, we could technically survive without it. We could technically survive without meat, being vegan. Are we morally obligated to subsist on, I guess, the lowest possible denominator? Is it really wrong for us to
in first world societies? It's not the lowest common denominator.
We are strip mining this earth of iron and copper and resources to the point of extinction. So yes.
For me,
but we need to strip mine these resources because if we don't strip mine these resources, none of us are here today.
I don't think it was about
have our PCs.
I don't think anybody was making that argument. I think people
need to
were arguing for using our resources and our abilities in the most efficient manner, and also at the least expense to other living beings and ourselves.
So I think you guys are missing like the more interesting point here. Well, before I jump in, I just want Cut Sleep to get his point out. Then I'm going to try something. Go ahead.
You should probably get your point out because I'm just going to ask a question. It might read down to a tangent. So I kind of want to.
Okay, great. Me as the average Joe Schmo consumer doesn't give a shit about anything any of you have said. Not even one bit, right? What I care about is whether the food is yummy in my tummy. And cow happens to be yummy in my tummy. Why should I give a shit about any of this? At all. I think, like, cheeseburgers taste amazing. That's why they sell. Why should I give a shit about any of this?
Do you care about the Amazon rainforest?
I guess in like in an oblique sense, sure.
I mean,
it filters. I like to feel good about the Amazon. Go ahead.
it filters the air you breathe to some degree.
Sure. No, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
But so let's don't tear down the air, but don't tear down the air for Amazon rainforests. I'm for that.
You value breathing air.
Yes, I value breathing air, but exactly why?
So how does it make you feel that they're burning down the Amazon rainforest to put pasture land in?
Can I please respond?
I've already responded. Holy shit! I've said yes. Don't burn it down. Thank you for the gifts up. Don't burn that down. Put pasture land somewhere else. I didn't ask you to burn down Amazon
It's just market forces at work, man.
Yeah, but
it's market forces at work. The people that were living in those were producing no value for the market. They had no problem moving them off.
Yeah, we get. I'm not about capitalism. I'm not a capitalist here, so it's whatever. That's
Brian, can I respond, please?
Go ahead, sure.
Yeah, so like let's say there was this alien food. It was the best food ever. It tasted amazing, better than any food that you could possibly comprehend. What is the harm of understanding that food exists and not being able to eat it?
I feel like you're making the Futurama argument here. What is the harm of knowing that food exists and not being able to eat it? Is that like I don't get to taste it, and it's really yummy, and I want to taste it. It's delicious, so I want to eat it.
Okay.
You are.
What if I could respond, please? I would just say that is a very minimal form of harm compared to the harm being done to animals, and therefore, like your personal.
It's not my concern.
That's not my concern. You're exiling yourself.
They're just not going to care. You're talking to someone who
you don't know how much pleasure you're going to receive.
I'm not asking people to care, to be honest.
Yeah, no, Prime's asking why should they care? Why should they, as someone who just wants to have like yummy meat in their tummy, right? Who eats meat because it's good for their life. It's cheap, right? It tastes nice. Why should they, as someone who doesn't see the effects of these things, care? Is that correct, Prime?
Yes.
Prime.
Okay,
what if I were to tell you the further?
It's hypocritical.
Wait,
because it's hypocritical.
What if I were to tell you the further?
They're not going to tell you. They're not going to care. It's hypocritical. Like you've got to talk to people like they're people, please.
Yeah. What if I were to tell you the further consumption of that meat or that delicious food has a very strong chance of resulting in the elimination of you ever being able to eat yummy food again?
You're gonna have to draw that link for me.
By continuing the progression of factory farming, which is what you're doing if you're buying in this system, there's a very high probability that climate change will further persist, and that might be able to either kill you or make it so that it's very hard to get that commodity again.
Oh, so we can draw a direct link between my hamburger and then what, a tsunami?
Not tsunami, but the factory farming, since you get your hamburger from more than likely a factory farm good.
I'm not for factory farming.
True.
You just said you like burger, though.
No, but
you
don't have to.
For ethical farming.
You don't have to.
For ethical farming practice.
Yeah,
do both.
Yeah,
I want to ask a question.
And you can raise the price of the burger. Like I can understand, I can raise the price of the burger if it requires factory farm. Like this is I feel like this is like simple, right? Because like I feel like we in these leftist spaces, I think this is what like fucking Destiny loves to criticize all the time, is that like we get in our fucking circle jokes here, right? About like philosophy or whatever the fuck, right? And don't actually know how to talk to regular people. I mean, this is like a simple argument I'm putting in front of you.
Oh,
sure, I don't like factory farming.
That assumes that we're able to read your mind and somehow know exactly what will convince you. You tell us first what you need to be.
Why are you getting so frustrated?
It's not that hard.
Holy shit! Yeah, like I don't know why you're getting frustrated.
All right, okay, here, okay, I can do this. Ready? Prime.
Oh my god, I still am gonna go.
Prime. Some people say that black people were subhuman. They weren't the same as white people, so they wanted slaves. Okay. Now, how do you feel? Now, we eat animals because we consider them to be fundamentally different than people. Okay. Because they're fucking animals. Well, some people said the same people about black people a long time ago. Now, how do you? What is your defense? Or when some people say, well, black people are sufficiently different enough from white people in order to be enslaved, and now you've got meat eaters that say, well, these mammals are sufficiently different from us as mammals such that we can eat them and enjoy their tasty carcasses and enslave them and rape them and all that shit.
Which one of you said the N-word? Which one?
So let me try to respond to this. They are wrong. We can look at medical science. It says that black and white people aren't sufficiently different. So I can ignore that argument. I am more different from a cow than I am from you.
But Prime, the science said at the time of, especially during slavery, during that
But
time.
science was wrong, but science changes. Yeah, science said that at that time, and now it changes.
Well, so now so you're going to run down an argument that vegans like to call name the trait. So
Okay.
the next question, so essentially I'm going to ask you a series of questions like, well, what's the difference between like humans and cows? Like, what is, like, can you think of something that makes you meaningfully different that every single human possesses that would give all of us moral protection that like the smartest of whatever mammals wouldn't possess?
No, you're trying too hard. You're trying too hard here. Because once again, I don't give a shit about this philosophy crap. I don't care about any of that. I want to eat.
Okay, let's say somebody comes and kills your dog. Should that be treated the same way as somebody slashing your tires?
It kills my dog. It's the same as slashing my tires. Oh, because they're both property? It depends on my, it depends on my emotional attachment, I guess.
I would like to respond again at some point.
How expensive was the dog?
Hold on, please stop. Holy shit. In terms of my reaction, I would probably be more upset about the dog than the tire. If you're talking about justice, I guess they're both property crimes, so.
What I don't understand is what does this prove? Like, you not being convinced by something doesn't actually detail a real flaw. If anything, you haven't explained to us what you need to be convinced, because you could just go ad infinitum with this, well, I don't care thing.
Because in order to change the way we eat.
No, I get the premise.
You need to convince people.
I get the premise, but what if that's literally impossible? What if people are always just going to be selfish?
Then this conversation is completely pointless. Then you've already lost.
Again.
You said you're against that. So do you actually eat meat?
Yes.
Do you actually eat hamburgers?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So where did the last hamburger that you ate came from?
I don't know. I'm completely separated from my food sources, so it's very difficult for me to tell.
So you say you're against factory farming. Can you say without a doubt that your meat did not come from factory farming?
I am in principle against factory farming. I can't control.
But if you don't know if it comes from factory farming, it's fine.
I have no idea. Yeah. But I would, if I had a choice, but I'll tell you, if I have a choice between factory farming and not, like if I had two products in front of me, right, I would choose the ethically farmed product, even if it costs me more. But
if you're completely ignorant of the food source, then it's totally okay regardless.
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying I would like to change it. I would go through Congress or whatever, right, to make the changes so that
you're going to go to Congress to tell your local food supplier to tell you where your food comes from.
No.
Going to go to Congress.
Can I finish responding to Prime at some point? Holy shit!
Alter the farming industry.
I think it's kind of begging the question to be like, you need to convince me of something, but we're also supposed to somehow. We're somehow supposed to read your mind, and then that somehow proves that like your mind being unreadable is like a problem with the ethics of veganism. Let me finish. Like the whole thing where it's like, this is what leftists do. They just expect people to believe them. Again, like how am I supposed to believe that this shows any actual flaw in the ethics of veganism? Just because it's not popular, just because people can be selective. And just because people can be selective only proves things about Prime.
I did not.
He's trying to make us make arguments that would be appealing to the average person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Simple. Which is why I wanted to say Prime, right? Like I like the.
I was trying to do. I was trying to talk to you about like how little you know about your food.
Yeah, and I agree. That's how I would approach a normal person. I already agree with you there. Go ahead.
I like the question you put up, Prime, because the way I would come across this, right? If I like had to talk to you and tried to convince you of like. Moving to a different source, because obviously like you don't want to stop eating meat, right?
It's really good. Yeah.
I would instead try to convince you to try to like try alternatives, even though they cost more. It's like better for our environment.
Okay.
And even like try to talk to you about like new techniques, right? Like the one big thing that I've been seeing around is like lab grown meat, where you can get meat that's like sourced in a better environment. And by like trying to convince you of these alternatives that you could try to switch to, I would also like point out the impact on our environment. I personally wouldn't really go with like the moral questions on meat because I personally don't think like most people actually care about it.
They don't give a shit at all.
The best way I've found personally, right?
No,
it's been effective to me.
Okay, one second. Nine Tails, you're freaking out over me. I don't know why this is freaking out, because this is literally how policy works, right? Like we're trying to convince people about climate change, right? But people oftentimes don't give a shit about the moral consequences of climate change. They care about the actual impact to their lives, and if they can be like a good person while making like relatively minimal changes to their lives. lifestyles, then they're on board with it, right? But you're saying they're going to have to do some radical change for some outside harm, right? That they can't see. They don't know that it's actually, they can't draw a direct line or anything like that. They're not gonna be convinced by every freaking argument. They don't give a shit. They don't, like, the average person just wants to live a nominal life. I'm not saying that your vegan arguments, I'm not saying your vegan arguments about moralism is there's a flaw in them. I didn't address that at all. I'm saying convince me, an average person, literally doesn't give a shit about any of that.
Here's a question. Here's an important question. Here's how not to beg the question on this, Prime. Tell us what you would need to be convinced.
He already said it's food, right? You just give people good fucking vegan food. This is the best vegan practice. Just cook food for them, bring it into fucking work, or give it to them, right? Like, if you can come up with market solutions that taste better, that taste like the thing that they want, right? Then that's how you convince them, because that's what they give a shit about. Cheap food. That's what they fucking want.
I said it.
Literally why I said you convince people.
I said it. Too many people talking. Sorry, too many people talking. So I said it from the very beginning, because I just care about food. I care about eating yummy food, right? So when you were talking, FK, right, talking about like the lab-grown meat, that was interesting.
Or,
like that
or
was
vegan alternatives that taste more like meat, right? You could even try them if you want to.
There you go. It's that simple, right? So I'm saying, like, all of this, right, to the public is not going to do anything. Now, within our, like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have these arguments, right? Because within these circles, I think these things are useful, right? Especially for other conversations. I think these things are quite useful. I'm just saying that to convince anyone, like, to actually make policy change, we'll have to do what FK is talking about, what Kilo-san is talking about. But, like, if like these conversations with regular people, puts them to sleep. It puts me to sleep, honestly. But whatever. Cut sleep. Cut sleep.
Okay. So a lot of people just spoke, so I'm gonna like address a couple of points that I've seen. So this is gonna take like be a little bit of a month, but
I'll make it too long, dude. Please.
So, no, just give me like 30 seconds. Okay. So firstly, I'm not like really set on to be vegan or not be vegan. I'm just I'm only like 16, so like I just have like a couple of main points and like questions to like get off. So to Destiny's point, if Kai was like a moral talkative person, he would say like, oh, a cognitive ability of a cow isn't sufficient as a cognitive ability of like a black person. So a black person is cognitively at even with a white person. But a cow.
So would you eat someone who is cognitively impaired? So if someone came out of the womb and they were like partially brain dead, right, had like IQ of like 40, right, this wouldn't justify you eating them, yeah?
Why are you judging whether or not you can eat something based on its mental state? Fuck.
What sauce do you use?
There is a point to that question.
I knew you were gonna go down to like, because like I'm debating named trait before. So yeah, you would say like a cognitively limited person has like less rights. Like we do this in actual society. They're treated as like a slave. Like they have like an owner who tells them.
But they'd still never be farmed and eaten, right?
That's
they don't farm and eat people with Down syndrome, right? Or at least not in the United States, I don't think.
No, but
in the promise never.
Wait, and you have something that I call like trait overlap. So there's multiple traits. So one is that they're cognitively limited, and two, they have like external matters. Like they have other people who care for them. Then you're gonna offer.
Yeah, I care about a cow. I like cows. I find them cute. I'm in pain whenever they're eaten. Why does that matter?
It's not like finding someone cute, but it's like owning them. So if you did own a cow, I wouldn't have the right to come up to your lawn and like shoot them. So like that.
Yeah, sure. So now I own all the cows. I'm saying I own the cows.
Yeah,
I like the cows enough. I walk past them every day. I've decided I own them, even though they're on someone else's property.
You can't decide you own a human because you walk by them every day.
How do you don't own humans? This is the point. Yeah.
You used to. I feel like it's a valid example.
Just logically follow you down the road.
Slavery still exists, by the way.
No, wait. Okay, I'll just logically follow you down the road. So the reason why we care about humans other than cows is because they have external people like parents, like blood, the relatives who care about them. Not just
So if we had like a neurotypical orphan, we could eat the neurotypical orphan.
I'll just keep going. So we have external people to care about them. An example that someone externally caring about a cow, and that would actually matter, is if someone owned a cow, someone else can't go and kill them. But you could say if no one externally cared about this mentally impaired person, it would be okay. So like if there was like a tribal island out in Africa and like they were just like no one else cared about them, it would be like.
So we're talking about like first world people. If some like mentally disabled person's parents died and they were the ones who were caring after them, right? Does that then, after their parents died, entitle the fucking food people to come in and start covering them up?
Wait, here's what you're saying. I'm going to answer a question, but like with a lot of like acknowledgments, you have to acknowledge no one cares about this person. It would give me morally benefit. It would morally benefit me if I like slaughtered them, or like maybe it doesn't. It doesn't have to morally benefit me because like we slaughtered cows for fun at this point. So no one cares about them, and they're kind of limited. So yeah, it would be like okay in that specific instance. Just like I said, if there's some tribal first world nation like out in like Africa,
not tribal.
like,
this is like a first world, just fully like America.
Why does the tribal nation always have to be in Africa? Also, can't we use like South America?
Is this like a long way of saying morality is contextual? Like,
yeah, it's like realistically, you should probably. No, it's not. No, we're asking about this person to be consistent, right? They have like a set of principles, and they're saying that like this fits this, and this trait, right? And what we're asking is, if these traits were applied to humans, would you still do it? And I would think it'd be quite silly to agree to eating like a parentless neuroatypical orphan, right? I think anyone here would agree to that, right?
Yeah, I think we're.
Yes, that's.
I don't know.
I don't agree with it. Even the most mentally damaged slave 300 years ago, comparing them to a cow is still completely fucking insane. Let's be honest.
All I'm going to say is that you haven't
lots of people. Marks, go ahead. Give it a try.
Oh, Kyosin, all I was going to say is that you haven't disproven.
Marks, go ahead.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that Kyosin, you have yet to disproven it, so I don't know.
What do you mean disproven?
Why shouldn't we? I don't know. You've yet to.
I don't believe anything is intrinsically right or wrong, and anything intrinsically holds value. You could do what you fucking want, right? I just think it's a bit silly to go about eating neuroatypical children who don't have parents.
Yeah, are you feeling
tautological, right?
You folks are feeling convinced by this argument?
Wait, why is it
keep treating this?
Say I have a cow, and I bring out my giant whip, and I start whipping this cow, or like whipping a dog. No, take a dog. Say I have a dog, right? And I start like taking my belt and I just whip them. Why is it okay for me to like continuously whip the dog? It's not
because you're not. Here's the issue, right? I don't know how you're trying to bring this.
Wait, let me finish the question. Let me finish the question.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Why is it not okay for me to like whip my dog, but it is okay for me to brutally murder a pig and eat it?
So the difference is when you're whipping a dog, there's no gain that you're getting out of it, right? At least if like we're slaughtering pigs or cows.
Yeah, and hold on, but there's a second part that needs to be quashed really fucking quick. Like again, everyone here is everyone who's for the meaty gang is all advocating for more ethical standards of like raising and the practices of treating these animals while they're growing up to then eventually be slaughtered. When they get slaughtered, we advocate for quick and ethical means. Like you guys are fucking characterizing this as no, I want it just fucking cut, snip the haunches off while he's still alive.
This is a distinction. This is a distinction without a difference.
Asinine level of like this idea that like of somehow if you're okay with killing an animal to eat it, that somehow means that you are then okay with like this most asinine level of like suffering. It does, you dumbass. It kind of works.
Because everyone stop jumping in. Hold on. Shut up. Everyone stop jumping in. Go ahead. Smug. Finish your point.
It's asinine to try to equate, and otherwise something that occurs and advocate for it to be more ethical, but then try to fucking characterize it as
we should do ethical slavery. That's right, isn't it?
You guys really just want to engage in this fucking.
Okay, wait. Can we let's wait. Just shortcut all these arguments. Okay. Okay. So if you're arguing against the vegan shit, okay. Anytime you argue against the vegan shit, what they're going to do is they're immediately going to compare it to humans. So don't say something that if in the next breath they go, well, would you look at humans that way? You'd be like, oh, and then you got even a million exceptions. So when somebody's like, well, of course we wouldn't do this to a dog, but that's because we don't get a purpose out of eating the dog. That's just fucked up. Well, the next question is going to be, oh, okay. So then if you were to like enslave humans and then rape them all and then make them have children continuously eat them, would that be okay as long as we're eating them and utilizing the products of their body? Because the answer to that is obviously no. So any question that you give for it's okay to do this to animals because of this reason, the next question is going to be, well, is it okay to do it for humans because of that reason? Because anytime you give a justification for why you can abuse an animal in a certain way, whether it's keeping it pregnant or abusing it or eating it or whatever, they're going to say, well, will that same justification then apply to humans? And then obviously you're going to walk it back. go, okay, well, hold on, no, it doesn't. And then they're going to go back to the animal examples, like, okay, so you have to pick something else, okay? So just whatever you think about in terms of animals, apply that same shit to humans and see if that would let you eat humans. Because if the answer is no for that, then the vegan's probably going to roast you on the answer you give for the animal thing, okay?
We are doing it to humans, though. There's plenty of humans.
No, hold on. We do not farm, we do not mass farm humans anywhere, okay?
Raise your hand if you've eaten a human.
It's called prison slavery, right? Like,
Wait, what?
Yeah, slavery still exists.
Raise your hand if you've eaten a human.
Prisons, quote unquote, slavery. Okay. So the democratic conjoining of all of our citizens to decide on how we treat people that go to prison is way different than farming humans. Whether you like prison slavery or not, personally, I don't. I'm guessing most people in here don't. That is not the same thing as fucking animal agriculture. Okay.
Kids in cages, prison slavery. It's very close to chattel slavery.
They're not even close. They're not even close.
Okay, what about sexual slavery then?
Okay.
There's no utility to this conversation right now. There is zero utility to this conversation.
Shut up, you fucking utilitarian. Oh my god. I can't stand you.
We're all just here and navel gazing about should we eat humans? Of course not.
It's such a silly example.
Think about it. If you can't take any trait and assign them to humans, then don't open your mouth, right? Like, that's it. That's the whole point here. We're just asking if people would have the same consistent qualifications if they thought about it, applying it to humans, because most people just haven't.
Well, of course you would.
Just be the Chad. Be the guy who goes, yeah, I eat meat. Yeah, it's fucking fine to cause pain to people. If I wanted to eat humans, I'd eat humans, right? Like, just own it.
Well, but that's such a crazy example. Oh my god, I step on dirt when I walk outside. That doesn't mean
It's a
I
crazy
step over
example,
human
but that's why,
corpses.
that's what vegans look at when they look at you. That's why it's
Even
crazy.
the founder of the KKK wouldn't compare black people to fucking like cows or sheep. That's absolutely insane. It's a crazy example.
This is the fast key to vegans online, okay? If you see a person online and they identify as a vegan and they want to have a conversation about your meat eating, the only correct answer is, hey, you know what? I don't really know what to say, and leave, okay? Because thinking of anything on the spot is never going to be a sufficient counter to an online vegan. And I'm not sliding the vegans. I'm not trying to make it sound like debate bros. I'm saying like they've thought this stuff through way quicker than just like, well, we kill animals because we get meat to eat. If you think that that's going to save you in an argument against an online vegan, it's not. You're going to get absolutely, it's just not going to work.
The only correct answer is, I completely agree with you. What's your number?
No, but going back to Prime's thing, Prime, like, what if
you're the only person who's like actually like respond or who has been responding? So why is it like morally wrong to like have bulls fight, but it's not morally wrong to like eat a pig?
I will give you the right answers to all of these questions, but no other meat eater will agree with it, okay? That's it. Because in order to be a meat eater ethically, consistently, you got to bite the bullet in a lot. You should be able to fuck animals. You should be able to do chicken fighting. You should be able to do dog fighting. You should be able to do bull fighting. Anytime. The thing that irritates me more than anything in the world is when people will sit and look at fucking videos of the fucking the ape in the zoo or Cecil the lion and they start crying and they get sad while they're chowing down on fucking chicken nuggets and cheeseburgers. That shit is the dumbest fucking shit in the world. So I will give you consistent meat eater answers, but it's not going to be satisfying for you because they're going to sound fucking sociopathic, which I acknowledge they will. And it's not going to be satisfying for the other meat eaters because they're going to think, well, hold on, just because I want to eat meat doesn't mean I have to be comfortable with bulls being tortured in front of live TV and I should still be able to be outraged on Reddit, blah, blah, blah. So literally the answers are not satisfying. The reality is that most people were committed to ethical principles. The 95% of people would be fucking vegans or some form of like vegan plus like incredibly like safely and naturally and nicely farmed fucking eggs from chickens or something. That's the actual answer.
Can I say two?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Are you saying like bullfighting and like all this stuff is like good? Or like, I mean,
that if you eat meat, you can't complain about bullfighting. Full stop.
Yeah, and I'm sick of all these pro-life people who clearly eat meat, but and say all life is precious until it becomes an animal's life. God created that too, according to like your system. So why does that just cut off there?
That's a whole other can of worms. Destiny, I disagree with you there. Hold on.
I'm just saying, it pisses me off.
Yeah, you're just saying a lot.
I have a question.
One second.
Do you not think there's a nuance of harm?
So hold on, one second.
The nuance of harm is the illusion that you tell yourself to feel better about the horrible fucking treatment that animals go through on factory farms. Cows that have to stand up for the entirety of their fucking lives where they are repeatedly fucking raped and kept pregnant so that giant fucking suckers can milk their shit all day. That stuff, you just don't think about it. You don't care about it. And you're the exact same person as a fucking Nazi living in Germany that didn't think about the Jews in the ghettos or a fucking white person in the USA that didn't think about the slaves making their clothes. It is the
literally.
It is the exact same
No,
thing.
it's
It is
not.
the
Are
exact
No, it's
Americans
not.
raping cows? I'm Canadian, so I don't know about
No,
that.
it's not.
We
No,
don't
do it
do
too.
that.
Anybody that
I'm
saves
agreeing
animals
with you.
and commits an animal
Was it
accident,
Will?
doing the exact
Right?
same
No.
legal
So no,
state.
is that? Hold on. This is absolutely not the case. Wick, yeah, I'm agreeing with you on this one. Like what? First of all, like I said to Want, like I'm against factory farming, absolutely, right? Like I would like to reduce the amount of harm to animals, right? Just in general, I don't want to increase their suffering. However, I think eating them is a worthwhile cause, so that I don't have a problem with. Like say that like I like the bull thing, the what is it called again? The bullfighting. Yes, bullfighting. Yes, bullfighting, right? That's needless harm. Oh, that accomplishes nothing, just for
Wait,
entertainment.
what do you mean by needless? It's all needless. What do you mean?
Wait, entertainment is the same as enjoying food.
You don't need to eat meat
we
to
can-
survive. That's something you do. Listen, people
Bullfighting
watch
is like
bullfighting and it
better.
makes them feel good because they watch the bulls fight with each other and they get pleasure out of it. You go and you eat a cheeseburger and you do that because it makes you feel
You can
good. You get pleasure
decide.
out
You
of
can
it.
decide on which harm is worthwhile, though, right?
How is what? Well, yeah, but that's so subjective.
Right?
How is
Like,
how
we do that all the
is
time. Like,
slaughtering
there's
of a
distinctions
life?
literally all the
How
time.
is slaughtering of a
Literally,
life
make
worth
those distinctions literally all the
it's a
time.
great pick anything crime?
Well, you eat a
But wait,
cheeseburger.
how is it?
How the fuck
Wouldn't
is
it be
that
more
crime?
ethical to have bullfighting because a bull is good after that?
Yeah, the bullfighting is a million times more ethical because like one bullfight can entertain like fucking millions of people. Your one cheeseburger is only going to entertain, I guess, a few thousand if you eat it on stream, but like generally just you, right? Or maybe a kid if you share it with a kid, right? Like bullfights are going to entertain. You can even record a bullfight and you can have that entertain people to the
I
end
didn't make that
time.
distinction. I didn't make the distinction, so I don't really care about that. That's not the distinction I'm making. That's the distinction you're making. I don't give a shit about that. No, I'm talking about. In fact, yeah, I fucking lost my point because everyone's talking at the same time. I'll get it back. Sorry, you were gonna say something, Kyo?
Oh no, I was just saying that like there's like I was just like literally like agreeing with Destiny here. There's like why is like the slaughtering like the pay like literally like the if you've ever seen like a farm because I went to an agricultural high school right I raised these animals these like tiny ass pens with these fucking no space fucking we call like animal rape like the literal pain these animals have to go particularly pigs oh my god you like bacon you like intelligence fucking pigs the standards they're in Jesus Christ and when they get to the fucking like the slaughter floor here's the thing you don't want to hear most of these slaughter floors are halal and guess what that means they get strung up by their fucking feet while someone cuts their necks and they thrash about until they fucking die from bleeding out.
I'm
right?
fine with
this
that.
This isn't
I'm
good.
fine with that. No, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, you're fine with it.
No,
Like,
so I'm saying,
like,
no, I'm fine with that.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait,
So like, hold on.
been-
I don't know why you understand why you think that just because a person likes to eat meat, like they're in favor of factory farming. I don't know why these things are one to one with you guys. I made it clear that I'm not for factory farming.
It's like I said, going.
It's not like
and I made it clear.
Even if they're raised like up to the point, right? Would you think that it's fine for me to like walk up to Smug Pug and fucking put a bullet through his brain
again,
so someone else can
Smug
enjoy
Pug's
like a
a
minute
human,
of seeing his
so I
blood?
don't care about any of that. That argument does nothing for me.
In a video game.
So yeah,
In a video game. I didn't know in Minecraft. It's not TOS.
Obviously, don't do
In a
that.
video game.
Yeah.
Did you say in Minecraft?
No,
Kyo-san, you said Minecraft? What the hell?
You say in Memphis?
I could have sworn you said that. What did you, Kyo-san, what did you say?
You must support the Holocaust. That's so far away. Those two things aren't.
So once again,
you're supporting the animal holocaust.
Holy shit!
Easier.
They're
Why
animals.
is it morally ethical for you to harm like?
Isn't it? It's really funny. That's what the Germans said about the Jews.
No. Why is it morally ethical? So you guys have already been the bullet on like bullfighting. Why is it morally ethical to like have needless suffering?
It isn't.
No one's saying it's morally.
Yeah. The thing is, Brett, you don't
What
care
kind of
about
school of thought would take
Brett,
that?
so
Wait, okay.
you
Every
guys-
single meat eater in here agrees that it is okay to have needless suffering as long as it serves some entertainment or recreational purpose for a meat eater.
Well, it's
It
not
is needless. Where's the need in your entertainment? Okay,
If it's
okay.
entertainment, then it's not really needless.
King Kong better than Godzilla.
Okay, serious question though. I have a serious question for everybody. Serious question. Where is the need in your comfort and your enjoyment in anything? There is no need in that. It might help your well-being. It might help your psychology. But no one's ever said that you getting to enjoy a fucking bullfight is a need. So yes, it is needless.
Yeah,
I was about to say needless death to be more precise.
100%, I agree.
Why is needless suffering?
Yeah, we agree on that.
Okay, in your framework.
I just wanted to.
Why is needless suffering morally okay.
Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? You keep saying that. I don't know who you're talking to.
Oh, for me, I don't care about discovering animals. When I start building my moral system, I start with the axiom that human life ought to be valued. I don't give a fuck about sentience or any of that. That's how I escape all that shit. But I'll bite the bullet on a whole bunch of other behaviors that most meat eaters won't bite the bullet on.
I agree that that's
I don't think there's any
that's like
blatant
you're
in
saying
there,
human
but-
value ought to be valued. Like,
Gosh, you want to say something?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you would say that like human value ought to be valued because of human value, right?
Gosh, holy shit! Oh my god, guys, I'm gonna have to start meeting people. Holy shit! Gosh, go ahead.
I've been waiting forever just to say that Kyo-san, yeah, I would absolutely bite the bullet on that. Like, if on your would you eat humans? I think that's just like a taboo thing. If you're gonna make the argument that like that it has to do with sentience, and you can prove that some human has the same sentience level as like a cow or something.
Theoretically,
yeah.
Again, all this moral relativism is an afterthought.
I don't want to eat humans or anything. Okay, listen, can I please finish? Can I please finish?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Go ahead.
The biggest problem vegans have is that your cheese fucking sucks. Can you guys make some good fucking cheese?
Very
I've
true.
never had a good fucking vegan cheese in my entire life.
Can I be?
Very
I hear this all the time, but when I go to vegan restaurants, vegan mac and cheese is usually really good. What kind of vegan cheese?
Because it's like no. So it's not the cheese sheets that they're using, right? So when you've got like the mac and you got like the cashew blend is pretty good, but actually having like cheese slices, that's a bit hard. Like the cheese sauce is good.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Like the vegan like breaks of cheese and shredded cheese is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
$5 vegan cheese costs $17.
To get back to, I guess, to the initial thrust of the question.
Go ahead.
I personally, as me, if we can develop lab-grown meat and those things and substitutes, cool. But I am not going to accept that the idea that sometimes I like a hamburger means I'm okay with raping animals. That's not.
Wait, that's a follow through.
I mean, it's a consequence of eating beggars.
Cheese, you are.
So
Destiny, wait. Let me just ask a question to Destiny, and
please, last question. Holy shit! Because I want to move on. Go ahead.
No, because like I can't ask a question to everyone because everyone's gonna give their own separate.
Yeah,
answer.
I know. Last question. Go ahead.
Okay, so if like not just okay, so if the entirety of humanity's like consciousness and everything that like begons in its memory was implanted in a pig, and now humanity was a pig, would it be okay in your moral system to shoot the pig because you only care about humans? So if we take every single qualifying human trait and put it into an animal and make that human as close to an animal as possible, your moral system does not care about that, right?
Dude, what the fuck is this hypothetical?
Yes.
Answers, yes. I like like imagine you collected all of the consciousness up and put it in a pig.
I really love.
How do you start a question like that?
I like extreme hypotheticals. I think they're really good at testing like the actual limits of your moral system. I would have to think for a long time what that means, though. That I would just have to think about it.
Okay. No, it's okay.
Really
like, I
agree with basically like a talking like a human cow that has like a human mind, but it's like a fucking cow. Like at that point, I don't know. I might like that'd be a hard one. I don't know. I just think
like you said, you started your axioms on just caring about humans. So if everything that made a human except its physical body was in an animal, would you like?
Yeah, but then it wouldn't be an animal. It would be like a human, right?
No,
you
guys
are begging the question. Egotistical arrogance of all these monkeys talking about whether or not it's moral, not like.
Did you just call me a monkey?
The question is it sustainable? Is it sustainable?
Okay. If you're making an argument for if you're making an argument for environmental veganism, that's like a different thing than kind of the moral argument we're going down. Now, just to be clear to the vegans, okay, I think that like, of course, my thing is going to be somewhat circular, but that's because we're getting to like these very foundational axiomatic, like what type of life ought we value? Like any type of question down at that deep level, that deep level of meta ethics is going to be like incredibly like circular. Like you're not going to be able to justify to me like, well, why should we value sentient life, right? Or why should we value human life? I think it's all arbitrary. That's why I don't give a fuck at the end of the day.
I think Rawls makes a reasonable argument here when they make like the society from first principles argument, right? Like they have a reason for valuing these other things.
But I can augment that argument and say, oh, well, I do society of first principles from the point of view of a human. Just like you probably only do it from the point of view of sentient life. And you don't do it from the point of view of all life, like insects or plants.
So
right?
let's go with the
We understand. Well, I base it off of preferences. preferences. So not necessarily like pain, but preferences. So if it can hold preferences, yeah, it's worthy of moral value. But like I don't necessarily believe moral value, but that's more of a tautology.
Yeah, but your whole argument is going to rest on that word preferences is doing heavy lifting there, because does preferences mean like the preferences that something with a CNS asserts, or does it just a CNS asserts, or does that just mean like the preference of like this is what it takes to biologically flourish? Because technically you could argue that a stalk of corn is a preference for sunlight and irrigation over.
Yeah, I guess. But generally when we think about preferences, we don't think of preferences that way. But we could, I don't want to come.
It just depends on what we.
Okay, Ninetales, you want to say something?
Yeah, I 100% agree that better alternatives need to happen. We need to start making alternative meat better. All these things are really fine arguments. What I don't agree with is the idea that individualistic entitlement to your own preferred consumerism means anything. It means a lot to you, and I'm sure that that's 100% viable. And again, I'm talking about morals here. Sorry if this isn't like the most palatable argument. But the thing is like, to me, this actually demonstrates the harm that can be caused by individualistic entitlement, sorry, where you matter more than literally the entire rest of the world. I'm not saying like this is like a trait the people who are making this argument inherently have, but they are making this effective argument around this. And I noticed that like nobody here has escaped the human supremacy thing, whereas I think animals are more superior because they're not conducting moral wrongs all the time like we are. We're actually an inherently worse species than any animals because we do more harm.
Hey, that's such a bullshit argument. Wait.
For me, I mean, they don't have the brain capacity to make those choices. So
that like literally allows like death penalty, for example, right? Because people who do like the worst things would be like less worthy of moral value to the point where we could probably dehumanize them and argue that we should put them to death, right?
So no, I'm not making any prescriptions about what we should do because of that. I'm just saying, to me, I see it as the opposite. To me,
I mean, these are like your personal value prescriptions, right?
Yes.
Wick, give it a try.
Yeah, so like your personal value prescription would lead to certain conclusions, right?
Wick,
no,
again,
like
for me, I understand that position, and I respect that position. But my position on human supremacy, I guess if you want to call it, I'm not sure the terms, is for me, I value humans because humans are capable of morality to a level that animals are not. And that is simply it. And yes, there are extreme examples and hypotheticals we can get into, but that is useless. It creates false dichotomies, and it's not helpful.
I'd like to respond to Kiyo-san.
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily taking this to any ends. I'm pushing back on the idea that this is inherent, because I could easily make a counter argument is what I'm trying to point out. And when I was saying, I was just agreeing with you that could only be like a personal prescription.
Yeah, look, like obviously we agree at like the end point, but like when we look at like the things that we value and things that we believe, that we'd have to look at how they like logically extrapolate out, right? So we'd understand whether those beliefs were like rational. I guess rational is a weird word to use, but like rational or not.
I wasn't making that statement though, because I'm married to that idea. I was just pointing out that there is an alternative way of viewing things.
Yeah, sure.
Gosh.
Yeah, I have a real actual point other than the cheese thing, although I think that probably is honestly the most important thing in this discussion.
True.
Many domesticated species that we farm are very, very unlikely to survive in the wild, like cows and stuff like that would probably be consumed by predators at huge rates. We protect, goats and sheep from wolves in large numbers. So it's kind of weird to say, like, maybe we stop eating them, but should we still keep them around on farms and stuff?
No, you would keep the rest of the ones and then you'd slowly breed them out. The idea that like these things exist and they're too weak to survive in the wild, so they need our protection, isn't a justification to perpetually breed them into perpetuity and then torture them.
So should we just let them die out, basically?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well.
Wait, is this an argument for an ethical genocide?
Factor that you're missing. If wolves, okay, not only are you keeping the chickens from naturally going and naturally doing evolution, you're actually keeping the actual wolves. Like, that's also another food set that you're taking from them. So, of course, you can say the chickens were gonna die out anyways, but you're lessening the food source of a wolf. But also, I would like to have another question to just the panel in general.
I mean, anyway, there are a lot of concerns there. Like, I'm interested in what the vegans think about that. Like, if we abolish, meat eating or whatever, what would happen to all the farm animals? Would
you just breed them out? You let them disappear.
Yeah, they just disappear.
Just let them all die. Okay, well, that seems kind of weird.
Wait, okay, real quick, let's say, for instance, let's say that there was a 2x2 box of emotion and feeling, and you bred it into perpetuity, and it suffered and it tortured, but like out of this box, you get yummy food. And then at some point, we're like, well, hold on, maybe we should stop infinitely breeding and torturing this poor little 2x2 sentient box. You wouldn't be like, well, but if we stop doing that, then they're not going to exist anymore. You're like, okay, well, every single time that.
It's not only about
deal with it.
Like, what about dogs? What about pets? It's that like cows are thinking, feeling things that deserve to exist, but then like the consequence of liberating them is like killing.
So
them.
one point here. So I just like to Gash, right? There's this idea in agriculture of it's kind of like crop rotation. So what happens is like cows are actually incredibly good at bringing back life to dead areas and dead crops, right? When they like graze in an area and pass that area through the ruminates and they poop. And then they tread that poop in, right? And then you move them around these areas, right? What they can actually do is bring like entirely dead and like deserty areas back to life, right? There's a couple of agricultural studies on this that I can send if you like. I would probably say like I said, I'm perfectly fine with like keeping animals captive. I'm perfectly like when we say captive, like we look after them. They have like some preferences that we allow, but we have like certain things that we protect them from, right? And I'm perfectly fine with having some uses for them in society. So when it comes to like cows, right, we could probably find a use for them in that sense in helping like when we move away from like eating meat towards like growing crops, we could help them expand our crop area by allowing them to bring areas to like sort of life that we wouldn't normally be able to.
Destiny, I'd also like to ask.
Okay,
like,
and I have a question to throw to Kiao-san, because it seems like you're like biting the bullets. So you've already been some of the bullets. So let me ask you this question. Okay, so if you already been the bullets of like bull riding and all that stuff, what is it morally wrong for me to come up to someone else's like dog and like shoot them?
So like
shoot the dog.
I am so like one, I'm a vegetarian. I'm actually not a vegan. And for two, I'm a literal. Yep, I'm a moral nihilist. By the way, I'm to be very clear. I'm a moral nihilist. I assign no value to these things. So to tell me, ask me if it's morally wrong is like a very weird question, right? Would I prefer you didn't do it? Of course.
Wait, are you from the
No, I'm not. No. Don't let me in with those motherfuckers.
You're the
okay?
moral nihilist vegan vegetarian. What in the fuck is happening here?
Cut sleeve. I don't know.
I'm a vegetarian as well.
Like Pokemon, you gotta catch all the labels.
See, Prime, this is why I wish.
Wait, this isn't like a catch all the labels thing. This is just like a good way to shorthand describe. I explained before Destiny that I was an error theorist. Like the first thing I said when I came in here.
It just seems so weird that you would commit yourself to it.
Well, it just doesn't seem like any argument. It doesn't seem like there's any like reasonable argument against error theory, right? Or like the knowledge.
Well, I mean, like I said, like error theory is just a subset of like
it's a meta-ethical position, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't commit you. It doesn't commit you.
You're right. It doesn't commit me to a normative position. But if we talk about things that are like good or bad, that's inherently queer when we talk about error theory.
What is error theory?
Like I mentioned before,
For the audience.
You go.
Just in case somebody doesn't.
You go, Destiny. I think you're going to explain
okay. Sorry. Okay. So moral realism was the thing earlier. Oh my god! I hope that silly motherfucker isn't here because she's gonna laugh at me if I fuck these explanations.
No, she's watching. She's watching right now.
Okay, so broadly speaking, okay, your Wikipedia scholar here. So you have moral realism was the thing I said earlier, where like when you talk about like a moral truth, you're saying that you are purporting a fact of the world, a discoverable external thing. It exists. It's real. And then you have moral non-realists. Okay. And these guys say like, okay, well, there are no such thing as moral facts. That's bullshit. Now, under that tree, broadly speaking, you've got like two different camps, kind of. You've got people that say they're error theorists, and then you've got people that say they're non-cognitivists. Now, I believe an error theorist says, well, you can construct like some sort of valid moral system, but at the end of the day, it's not actually reporting moral fact, like it's reporting like other types of facts. And then a non-cognitivist says, well, no moral statements report any facts ever. It's basically just expressing like an emotional state. So like a non-cognitivist would be like, oh, like you don't like murder, you're just saying murder blue. And then like an error theorist might say, okay, well, we can actually construct a system that says that murder is bad, but we're not claiming at the end of the day that we're purporting some objective moral fact. It's like generally I think they're between like an error theorist and
it's the difference between being truth apt and non-truth apt.
I know some of those words.
Seems like a statement.
Okay. Kidding.
You have a system inside your error theorist because it doesn't seem like a system. It seems like a statement of a system. It's like, okay, whatever system I do choose.
Well, that's what he said. An error theorist doesn't. If someone says they're an error theorist, you don't know anything about. They could be a Nazi. They could be a fucking Christian. They could. Well, probably not. Like they could be anything. They could. An error theorist is just a statement on like, do you think that moral fact is real or not? You could still have like any type of moral system. That's why I'm saying like just because you're an error theorist, it doesn't commit you to a certain position.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I have a normative position on utilitarianism, basically, right? right? Like I'm a preference utilitarian, but like when you ask me if like something's morally good or morally bad, well, those are just like queer concepts to an error theorist. And queer is in the philosophical queer, not the other kind, right? So queer is like, this is a really strange thing to say.
I'm a relative hedonist. Okay, I just want to know.
Okay, all right. Supreme, you just came in. Do you want to have anything? Oh, all right, never mind. Supreme, you just came in. Do you have anything to say to this? I want to make sure I get you in there. Supreme. Oh my God! Oh, for fuck's sakes. Could
I ask Destiny something?
Yeah, yes,
Hello.
please go ahead. Ask Destiny something.
Destiny, for like the previously we were talking about like breeding out animals, like domesticating animals. What would your argument be against dogs, like breeding out dogs? Or animals such as
fuck. Okay, I'm gonna have statements on morality related to animals that literally no other meat eater on the planet is gonna bite the bullet on. So
Yeah,
I don't
we're
like
also
answering.
here, by the way.
What?
I was just saying, the actual vegans are also here. If you ever want to ask us a question.
Yeah, so I don't like that I get asked questions to defend like meat eater arguments because I think I can do it really well. But then other meat eaters will hide behind me, but they will never bite the bullets the same way that I will on some like crazy questions related to animals. Like, but regardless of that, so like for dogs, are you asking me like how I personally feel about dogs?
Yeah, I get. Okay, the reason I asked this is because previously for like for cows, you said that we should breed out cows because of the suffering that's perpetuated by further breeding them and like all that. So I want to ask you the same for cows.
Oh no, okay. I was answering under the perspective of like for a vegan, like how like that's not my point of view. I don't care about farming and eating cows. But if you did think that the genociding of cows or whatever was bad, or I'm sorry, not the if the perpetual like eating and enslavement and torturing was bad, it'd be preferable to just breed them out until they don't exist anymore than to continue like perpetuating that suffering.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misidentified. Then for any vegans, real quick, what would your argument, if you have it, what would your argument be for like breeding out dogs?
Wait, can you state the argument?
Dogs are powerful.
For any like vegans, like it is. I don't know if
there's some vegans here. Ask them.
Yeah, no, I'm
yeah.
Vegans, what's your argument?
So on one hand, I don't like the idea of removing agency from anything that can't consent to it. I just think that that's inherently wrong. On the other hand, therapy animals and pets clearly save people from give people a purpose and save them from suicide. So I'm torn on it. I think pets and animals are moral good. However, the idea that they're here to serve us and that we can't actually ask them if this is what they want really bothers me.
Oh, breeding dogs is bad.
Why can't there be symbiosis? Why can't it be like codependent?
Okay, I want to see sleeve. Yeah, that's why I
start breeding as many dogs as I possibly can. Right, me personally, right, I would want to breed as so many dogs. Just spread them all out, right? And if they keep getting hit by cars, then I'm just weeding them out. They're just idiots who can't stop getting hit by cars. I'm just going to keep growing them as much as I can. Like, why not? Right?
Okay. Sleeve, I want to ask you.
We keep fighting humans around like cancer. Why can't I do the same thing with my cats?
Please ignore that. Cut sleeve. I want to, since you said no.
Because like if an alien force above us were to like come down and like start breeding humans for their mundane things, I wouldn't have any argument against that. So I would say like, wait, why are you laughing? This would be my argument.
Because it's
like
silly.
Okay, what I'm I think the better way to phrase that argument is, what if aliens were to come down and they were to find a cow, but that cow had the mind that was implanted with all the memories of a human, so that it was the moral. Yeah. I'm sorry, that was really mean. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm being an asshole.
Who would win? These are such abstract.
Cut sleeve. Let me. What were you gonna say, Cut sleeve?
Good point. Like what?
Argument for like above, but like bringing out dogs is like bad for like obvious reasons. Like dogs don't have a choice to get bred, and like those like types of like
nobody has a choice to be born.
But no, it's morally wrong to breed dogs like it is morally wrong to breed other animals. I don't know why you would specify dogs in specific.
Okay, the reason I specified dogs because they brought about suffering, and I would say that we could eliminate practices within dog breeding in the world, just like, hey, free reign, you can fuck whatever you want, like that's how you breed dogs for now, and decrease that suffering and to make it like very, very minimal. Treat dogs as well. So that's why I was putting back against. I guess your argument isn't around suffering. What is your argument around cut sleeve? Like, what's the
people breed birds in mass right now, right? You know that, right?
Wait, what did you say?
People
so I'm
breed
guessing
birds.
Marx's argument is going to go down to the point of like, should we be able to breed things like pugs, right?
Everybody, you can breed.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So the line of my argument. So like, yeah. Oh, actually, I'll let you finish. Leave them.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, my argument against breeding dogs is like autonomy. Like humans have human rights. I think people or like even animals should have the autonomy to breed whoever they want. Not like forced breeding. I don't like forced breeding.
Okay, so you'd be totally fine if we just reindustrialize, say, okay, we're gonna release all these dogs and like say, hey, you can fuck whatever you want, but we like, would you be against like the owning of animals? I guess like, would you be against the idea of pets then?
The idea of pets?
Yeah.
It depends on the pet, but usually no, because like I do think like some forms of like, or don't like blame me for this. I do think some forms of human slavery is okay. For example, I'd rather be a human slave than to be thrown out in the wilderness and like die at age like 2. But in its sense, pet owning is bad.
Okay, but I thought you said you'd prefer autonomy, or like that's the fundamental of your thing. By categorically like owning a pet, you're getting rid of a significant portion of their autonomy.
Yeah, I'm saying owning a pet is bad.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought you. Okay, never mind. All right.
All right. Wicked Supreme. Sorry, Supreme.
Hello.
Oh my God. Yes.
Is my mic working now? Sorry,
Yes.
I had a little trouble in the beginning.
No problem. Yeah. What do you want to say about any of this?
I mean, I didn't really jump in here with anything particular that I wanted to like talk about, I guess. I mean, like I make my own dietary restrictions for my own reasons, not ones that I would try to like impress on others or whatever. But I guess I'm just kind of curious about some of the positions that I've heard since I've been here. For example, I guess I'm curious, like, what about the nature of existing just contingent on the fact that you were bred is inherently negative?
All right. So is this like the antinatalist argument? People didn't ask to be born?
Well, I mean, I don't subscribe to that argument. I'm just asking, like, if the idea is that it's inherently negative and that we ought to breed out species that we must like be that are interdependent or codependent on us or something like that. Like, I'm just curious, what about that existence is inherently negative? Or are we operating?
I believe animals have autonomy, and so when you negate that autonomy, you're removing one of their inherent rights.
Right, but we're talking about being born, and nobody has the autonomy to be born.
Right, but then these animals also have no autonomy to do literally anything else in their life except for be like feedstock for humans.
Yeah, but why can't that be like a positive thing by conception? Why can't there be symbiosis?
That would be that's just a dumb argument.
But what if it spends its entire life? What if it spends its entire life feeling like joy and pleasure, and it like enjoys its life from start to finish? What about its negative?
I think you're just applying like a hypothetical that really isn't reasonable.
Well, no,
because every being that's ever existed values its agency. Name me one being that literally like that isn't domesticated to be that way, that crawls into a cage as a wild species.
Well, you can value your agency, or at least a degree of agency, but that doesn't mean that you can't also enjoy a life where, like,
well, you see, I have this thing called empathy. So when I see an animal losing its agency when it wants it, I'm like, oh, I would hate that too. Therefore, since I don't see myself as being inferior or superior to these beings inherently, I empathize with them equally.
Okay, wait, I have empathy as well. I'm really curious. I mean, there are plenty of dogs that are happy to be with their owners and live happy lives and aren't like begging to get out all the time, you know?
I agree that
like, not all dogs live in cages. A lot of dogs.
That's an interesting exception.
So everyone's heard of the old people were like you can breed a couple and like you can throw them into the bottom of a basement and chain them up for like 20 years. And as soon as they like have independency and have agency and get out to the real world, all they want to do is run back to their chains. That's what like pet owning is. For some instances, there are instances where like pets are generally happy, and I'm actually okay in those instances. But the second argument of autonomy is like, I wouldn't want, so if a higher alien species came down and like stole my autonomy, I wouldn't want that to happen. So to like answer whether autonomy is good,
right? Because we may have different.
It's like, okay, for the question of whether autonomy is good, I would just ask myself, do I want my autonomy? Generally, in most cases, yeah, I kind of do. So you would just run that to like other animals.
Okay, I understand this argument.
If I could make a statement here to bring this discussion from the super general hypothetical to the very specific, for me personally, if I tried to kick my dog out saying, it's unethical for me to keep you as a pet, that would destroy my dog's self-esteem. That would be a bad thing. So, I mean, the damage is done. We've domesticated these animals.
I think for people who are already pets,
why is that even damage though? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm.
They're happy.
I don't think it's damage, but they do.
Wait,
so I'm just saying
who
that
does?
Is removing someone's autonomy?
I don't know this guy.
So my grandparents are from Crimea. There's tons of wild dogs. They all have rabies. They all starve to death when they're 4. It's hard to argue that domesticated dogs have it worse than the ones that eat each other.
It sounds like we're just accepting.
We're saying they have less autonomy.
It sounds like we're just accepting that dogs and humans must have the same desire for autonomy or something, and I reject that.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. So if there was like slaves, if a white person owned slaves, and like after a certain while that like black person got used to being a slave, like you would make the argument that you should be forced to keep them as a slave because kicking out the slave might damage its like its morale.
You're talking about like Stockholm syndrome, right?
Right. Exactly.
So do you think that like all domesticated animals just have Stockholm syndrome?
Talking about chattel slavery.
Where it's like most domestic, some animals don't, where it's like you let them out for like 2 seconds and they're gone, and they're just yeeted. They like yeet it out. But some animals do have Stockholm syndrome, and just like humans, if humans had Stockholm syndrome, you wouldn't say like.
Okay, Stockholm syndrome is a psychological thing. They've been bred to be this way. It's entirely different.
Yeah, I was
not necessarily.
Not naturally want to be.
It can be bred to be.
You think it's inherent in animals to want autonomy?
Has nobody here ever had like an outdoor cat?
Show me one animal that sacrifices its autonomy willingly, other than in mating.
Well, I guess artificial.
All domesticated animals.
I mean, there have been
they've been bred to do that.
Where there have been cases of pigs who have voluntarily given themselves harm or even their lives in some cases, protecting humans that quote unquote own them, right?
Okay, but that's empathy, and that's more reason to assign them rights than less.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay, I'm talking domesticated. All right, I don't care about the whole thing. Cut sleeve. Did you say domesticated?
Who just like Ninetales just said, she brought up, I think, wait, is that your pronoun? Wait, let me see.
Yes, thank you.
She brought up a point, which is like, who voluntarily gives up their autonomy? And if they do, I would actually be in favor of domesticating them. If they voluntarily gave up their autonomy, then that would be one thing. But you're just taking their autonomy and saying, they might not want it. That's another thing.
Okay,
One second, sorry, I'll be quick. You do. Don't you voluntarily give up your autonomy? It's not like you could just stop paying taxes. It's not like you're gonna go fuck off and go hunt in the forest. To some extent,
we don't have to go here.
Yeah, I don't. This is a different argument.
I know, but my point is, the whole idea of anything that's not freedom for animals, it's super bad. Oh my God, you domesticated a dog, it's horrible.
Yeah,
no, we're all domesticated. It's fine.
I'm just trying to answer this. So, Cutsleeve, obviously, we have different axioms. Like, I don't care about autonomy as much as you do, Cutsleeve. But when talking about domesticated animals, how do you prove that they inherently want to be independent or autonomous in that way?
Well, let them outside. You'll see.
How would you prove an illiterate black person wants autonomy and independence? The answer is you don't. You just assume autonomy.
I think this is a really weird Western. We're getting really obsessed with this autonomy thing. Okay, any case selection animal, so animals that have babies that they take every long time, is giving up its autonomy every time it gets fucking pregnant. So every single animal that decides to have offspring is going to severely limit its mobility. It's going to limit its ability to survive and live and to travel and explore. And when it has kids, it's going to limit its future potentials. I've never in my entire life seen a fucking mammal that has children go to college. They don't get any education. Okay, they totally fuck their whole lives up having kids. Right. So any animal that willingly engages in any type of pregnant behavior is giving up its autonomy. This obsession over protecting autonomy, I don't think makes sense.
They still they value that autonomy still, though.
I don't think
whether
so.
or not they value it.
I don't think they value their autonomy. I don't think animals have a concept of autonomy.
How do you know?
Because if you were to give a cat the option to get free food every night versus letting it run away forever, animals, for a cat is a really good example. You gave that earlier. So even outdoor cats tend to stick to a specific area, specific territory. They're very, very territorial. If they wanted to, they could go and travel the entirety of the fucking world, but they don't. They choose to stick to an area that's safe and ensures them some level of protection, shelter, and food.
Territorialism, though, isn't
if a cat wanted autonomy, it would leave my front door and never come back, but it always comes back at the end of the day.
Yeah, but non-domesticated species are incredibly likely to do that. And name me one animal that won't fight for its autonomy as soon as you try to take it.
A cat.
Wait, what do you mean? Wait, what?
We told you already.
Wait, yeah, true.
Domesticated animals are bullshit response. Stop using
We're having two different arguments, so we can go the base.
Hold on, stop. Hold on, stop. Marks, finish, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're having two different arguments, so we can obviously argue for the base level of like primitive animals, but right now we are arguing on like domesticated animals. That we're arguing off the morality of domesticated animals.
Yeah, and if we're going to extend the entire metaphor or the analogy or an example of an outdoor cat, right, staying to a very specific spot, that's because based on its own autonomy, it knows that for maximum survivability, it's great to have close pattern recognition in order to ensure it survives long enough to make more of them to keep doing it, right?
Let me ask Destiny a question. Destiny, is it okay to strip mothers of their autonomy because they choose to get pregnant? Like, you're just saying the same thing. Because, like, you wouldn't say...
No, I'm just saying, hold on. I'm just saying that autonomy, that concept, that is a very human concept. I don't believe any fucking animal has any concept whatsoever of autonomy. I think that if we're looking at, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I don't think there are many dogs and cats that they're looking for self-actualization, okay? They're very, very, very low on that. They probably want food, shelter, and like pets, maybe like a little place to play, but they're not thinking of like autonomy. I don't think that's a very human concept. Like, that's
your dog the last time I tried to catch a fish, you know what's weird? The last time I tried to catch a fish, it got away. It's almost as if it knew that by catching it, I was removing something fundamental from its life.
The fish doesn't The fish doesn't look for its freedom. The fish is where it's going to get fucking eaten. The fish doesn't care about
that's the same thing. That's the same thing. Being eaten is removing something of its autonomy. You have to remove something of it.
You are stretching this term autonomy so hard. You're stretching it so hard. Holy crap.
No, I'm not. Okay, when you eat something, are you not removing its autonomy? Yes or no?
Wait, that's basic survival.
I mean, yeah, but like,
yeah.
If I clean my cat's litter box, is that removing its autonomy?
If we look at some domesticated, like the domesticated cat example makes sense, right? Because what you're saying is you've shown the animal like this place is safe, this person is safe to be around, right? They're not going to get eaten, so they come back to get food, right? It's not like a case of like necessary autonomy. It's a case of how safe is it to be in this area, right? It seems like they're valuing something else other than autonomy.
Yeah, well, we don't know, right? I mean, that's the point. When you like try to put a cat in a cage and it starts freaking out and trying to escape, I think you're ascribing that to some like a sense of autonomy, that it's like trying to realize itself or that it's working for its own freedom or something. But we have no idea how much of it is that, and the evidence for that is I'm not convinced. I've looked into this a little bit, but like we don't know how much of it is that, how much of it is just fear or like some mechanical reflex for survival or something like that. Like,
see, what I think is the human condition here is that we think that you need to be self-aware to value autonomy.
Yeah. Also, I really want to.
But hold on. But you understand that. You understand. Hold on. I know. I've more or less given up on this conversation myself. Nine Tails. You understand that Destiny and Supreme, they're making assumptions here. You're making an assumption on the other side, right? Like you don't have any evidence to this. They don't have any evidence. Like we don't know. We just don't know, and we're just like making guesses. We can understand that, right?
Again, I think a difference is I don't think you need to be aware of your autonomy to value it.
No,
I think
I hear you.
Inherently value something.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm saying no. I understand what you're saying, Nine Tails. But I'm saying you're just making this assumption, right? Like you don't have evidence to say this is the case, right? And Destiny and Supreme have evidence to say.
Can I have a source?
Yeah, can I just say though that my evidence is the instinct that preserves autonomy.
Okay, wait.
Your evidence is behavior.
There is no biological. There's not necessarily biological advantage to having autonomy. Your goal is to.
What is territorialism? Territorialism is having the amount of space you need to do what you want to do to get by.
Wait, does that mean you can? Does that mean by domestication you can breed out the autonomy of animals?
No, listen. Your advantage, your goal as a species is just reproduce. That's the only thing you care about. Some people can do that by as long as you secure shelter, food, all that shit.
Incredibly reductionist.
How do you define?
That's the nature meta. Sure, I'll give you that. That's the nature meta. But I don't think the only thing an animal thinks its entire life, especially more sentient beings, is fuck.
Okay, listen. You know what? I don't want to get into a high level argument, but the reality is that even humans don't value autonomy anywhere near the level we say we do. Okay, we sit here and we talk about freedom of choice. We want autonomy, but we say we play the same fucking video games every single day. If you go to a different restaurant, you order the same fucking thing every fucking time. Okay, you get the same fucking flavor of ice cream every time. You
That's such a shit argument. Holy
Shut up! Hold on. I want to hear what Destiny says. Shut the fuck up! I want to hear what Destiny is saying. I'm going to mute you.
I am dead fucking serious. Every single person in this fucking room right now has the opportunity to completely and totally 90-degree change every single aspect of their life, and you don't. We do not value anywhere near the amount of autonomy that we think we do. This is some hyper fetishized, crazy fucking liberalism, crazy fucking commodity capitalism, whatever bullshit. I don't know what the fuck happened where people
you're just avoiding autonomy because it's
not
a
avoiding
losing
autonomy.
argument.
I'm telling you that nobody here values autonomy at the level they think they do, or they're fucking lying to
I
themselves.
don't care. I don't care. All my arguments still apply. That doesn't actually respond to what I'm saying.
Food, safety, shelter, the ability to like have a little bit of fun, take care of your family. These are the things that they value. Autonomy is for the very rare person that wants to go travel the world, explore fucking mountains. That is an incredibly small subset of the population.
Yeah,
So
sure. If you can reduce it down to your own personal definition, sure. It suits you incredibly well. I agree.
Okay, sure. So that being said, for my argument, okay, I don't think humans value autonomy that much. I'm not going to sit here and say that a dog wishes that they could fucking hop on a train and travel the fucking countryside of the United Kingdom and have their autonomy anywhere near as much as like even a human thinks. Okay,
I think at this point we need to review a definition
can you do me a
autonomy.
favor? Stop! Cut sleeve, shut up. Ninetales, can you do me a favor? And can you define what you think is autonomy? Like, what's your definition of that, please?
The freedom to act on one's own will.
Okay, great. I think
the desire for that freedom or the freedom itself?
The same way that humans do.
Freedom itself.
Do animals have will in the same way that humans do, in your opinion, Ninetales?
No, I wouldn't say so. I'd say they have a simpler form of will.
So I just think it's a mistake to assume that animals value and think the same as humans. Now, I get it that we do horrible things to animals and that should change. But I don't ascribe to this idea that
I'm glad you're saying this too, Prime.
What the fuck is happening?
I've been watching this for like 5 minutes.
Okay, tell me. I might be. What is it?
Look at Charble.
Wait, what?
Rick and Morty
My laptop screen cuts off half of my monitor. Y'all are being really mean by not telling
Wait,
me.
what's happening? Hold on.
You missed it. You don't want to know, but go ahead.
Wait, hold on. You can't blue ball me. What the fuck? Come on. Tell me.
Just clip it. Just clip it.
Yeah, someone clip that, please. Thank you.
Okay, I do want to respond to Wick.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, sorry. Ninetales, respond.
Yeah, I'd say that even though that there's different degrees of will that can be contained in a single thing, that doesn't mean that like the basic instinct to be autonomous is any different. We all have that basic instinct, and it's all valuable to us equally.
Okay, thank you.
I feel like
thank you for helping me understand your position better.
Destiny's point wrong. So let me give you this. Okay, Destiny, your error in thinking is like you're saying you don't have to use your autonomy to value your autonomy. So for example, yes, most people won't travel to Europe, but most people will get mad if you say like if some like demon lord comes in and say like you can never travel to any country outside of America ever again. So yes, you can value your autonomy without using it. So yes, most people play the same game every day, but if someone came up and said like you can never play any GameCube games ever again, maybe you wouldn't even buy a GameCube in this lifetime, but you would be mad that someone just took your autonomy. So even though you don't use your autonomy, that doesn't mean we don't value it. So you don't have to use your autonomy to value it. Because
oh my God, this conversation. Okay, I understand what you're saying. Listen, okay, this is what I think. You're never going to change my mind. If you want to have a way longer conversation, we can. Okay, I am an autonomy instrumentalist, okay? What I believe is that we value autonomy because we think we can use autonomy to lead us to better choices and better decisions. But if the optimal choice has been made for us, then we don't give a fuck about our autonomy, okay? If there are 3 houses that we can choose from, and one is a burned down shack, the other is a fucking 1-bedroom shithole, and the other is a fucking mansion, and somebody says, hey, by the way, you don't get to choose. You're gonna go live in the mansion. Nobody would complain, well, hold on, where's my autonomy? The only time we're upset when our autonomy is taken away from us is when we feel like suboptimal decisions have been made in place of us making the actual decision. So while we think at the end of the day that we value autonomy, the reality is we only value autonomy because we think that that's like the best system that we can use to get to better choices for ourselves. If those optimal choices are already being made, then we don't give a fuck about autonomy. That's all.
But that's because it's optimal according to. Let me answer. Just let me answer. That's because this is optimal according to the purview of the person who has autonomy. So if the person is doing things for you already that matches your autonomy, of course you're not going to have a problem. But as soon as someone contradicts your autonomy, then you're going to fucking notice what's optimal is relative to what your autonomy is to begin with.
So I think like a really good example here is like looking at like China, right? Like everyone looks outside into China and says, wow, this is like dystopian. This like social credits, the government keeps an eye on you. They're always watching you. The CCTV is always on your eyes, right? But like to the people there, their lives are improving. Everything's good about what they're enjoying, right? They don't necessarily feel like they're being shackled in because their lives are good, right? It just does this level of autonomy doesn't seem to matter, especially when we look back even further in history and we can see there are even more draconian measures, especially in like the US, and people just didn't seem to give a fuck, right? Like,
Okay,
I think I'm like agreeing with Destiny here is that like it's instrumental in how much the autonomy matters.
I can counter this because I'm like a conservative, so like I value autonomy a little way much. But I can give you two examples where this is not wrong. So where this is wrong. So first is a more debatable point. UK left Brexit, so like the UK valued autonomy so much that it will leave like its economic superiority.
So why they left?
All the way. I'm not. Okay. Oh, all right. It doesn't matter. But the second better example of like why people value autonomy is gambling. We all know, and we've all been told that gambling will produce negative outcomes for you. But people still choose to gamble. So if you went to the population of America and said you can't gamble anymore, so many people would be mad, even though they know they're going to lose money because we've been told that we're going to lose money. So that actually counter Destiny example. Like even when people tell you you're going to lose money, you still want the choice to gamble. You still want the choice to lose money. So
wait, you said you're a conservative and you value autonomy? What do you value?
Non-conservative,
wait,
right?
do you value the autonomy to like get an abortion or to let people do drugs, or the autonomy for illegal people to settle here as immigrants, or the autonomy for trans children to get beta blockers or whatever? Or like what like I feel like conservatives are inherently like block so much autonomy. Like what? That's a surprising position for me.
Well, can we go by this like point by point?
Sure, yeah. Do you value the autonomy of somebody to get an abortion?
We'll just ask him what some of his conservative positions are.
Yeah, no. I've been like wavering on abortion a little bit.
Okay, wait.
Like,
Okay, no, I don't want to go into a whole thing on abortion. I'm sorry. I fucked up hard. I fucked up.
Next one. Just next one. Give it the next one.
Do you value the autonomy of everyone in society to do drugs?
We don't want to hear it. No.
Do drugs. Do the drug one.
Okay, drug one?
Yeah, do you think everyone should be able to do drugs?
Depending on what type of drugs.
Any drug. Why would it matter? They should have the autonomy to do any drug, right?
No. Okay. So here's the problem with drugs. I actually don't care if someone like smokes a cigarette because that only affects you. But the reason why conservatives like have a problem. The reason why conservatives have a problem is like the reason why conservatives have a problem with cocaine is because not because of a single individual person is doing cocaine, is because that cocaine can actually hurt the autonomy of others. So actually we can apply like real utilitarian pragmatics into this. So like maybe you allow that person to do cocaine.
Okay, I agree with you. Well, listen. I agree with you, okay? But everything you're telling me right now is just like is an abstraction of what I said earlier. So you value autonomy in and of the fact that it produces good outcomes. You don't actually care about the autonomy in and of itself. It's an instrument for you to achieve good outcomes. Because the thing is, yes, because you're willing to throw that autonomy aside as soon as other people are hurt as a result of your autonomy. So it seems like you value
other people's autonomy are hurt. I said other people's autonomy.
That's a question of
How does drug use hurt other people's autonomy?
Even still, cigarettes hurt other people's autonomy.
I wasn't going to say secondhand smoke.
Yeah, secondhand smoke, cigarettes. I think generally lead you to over time, like in worser moods.
No,
it
but
feels like autonomy is
you
like
can still walk away, right? This is autonomy. Autonomy
yeah,
is
you have the autonomy to leave.
right?
You can't.
I can acknowledge someone. I can say like, okay, yes, I mean autonomy does matter in its value of doing good choices. Just because you say like, okay, I value this because it has a negative outcome doesn't prove that I don't value autonomy at all.
I mean, it sounds like we're saying like we've rooted autonomy. The definition of autonomy is basically, can you make a decision? I mean, like, because if we've made it like that fundamental, I think every single person in the history of the planet agrees that like, oh, autonomy is good and we can make decisions. Like,
or at least the people value it, right? Whether or not they exercise it.
Okay. So I still don't understand how drug use is affecting other people's autonomy. I still don't get that.
It can certainly affect like.
Yeah, you get insanely high if you crash someone else's you crash someone else with a car inside, like someone inside the car.
Let's assume I grow and manufacture my own heroin and do it at home all day, every day by myself and never bother anybody.
Well, with the example of secondhand smoke.
Wait. I'll answer his question. I think he posed a question to me, and then I'll let you talk. Okay.
Yes.
So if you just grow your own heroin farm and you never bother anyone, no one in the world, I don't have a single conservative friend that has a problem with that. If you just do, but what I do have a problem with is like most people, like someone gets high off their butt and then they like drive into a car accident and then they ruin someone else's autonomy for life. Does that answer your question, Stardust? Because like if you get like a certain number of,
I mean, the same thing happens with speeding, does it not? Like the same thing happens with like reckless driving.
Isn't reckless driving not legal?
Driving a car might as well be like illegal because you're taking away other people's autonomy to like live if you get into an accident, right?
Yeah, let's not slippery slope.
Into an accident is illegal. Isn't that called like manslaughter? If you like get into an accident,
Well,
with,
affecting
like,
somebody else with your drug use is illegal too, right?
Wait, so you just proved my point. So like, is there like?
Well, so all
Yeah,
drugs
that's
should
why
be legal, but
like-
if you do something bad on a drug, then you should be punished for it.
Yeah, the problem wasn't the
Yeah.
drug.
Yeah.
No.
The problem's the
but
person
here's
using
thing.
the drug.
No, it's not even that.
No,
It's just
but
the
here's the
act that
thing.
causes
No,
make
you would
a
have
lot
to
of-
demonstrate
no.
that legalizing drugs has a higher probability to cause more people getting into car accidents and like taking other people's autonomy. That's
Which
the
it
only way you
actually
can really.
I just
do
want to
it.
say I love the conservative position that if you show them like a fucking AR-15, like guns don't kill people, people kill people. But when you give them a drug, blunts kill people. I just think that's a very funny like juxtaposition right there.
That's why I don't like labels, because like you're just gonna describe me every single conservative
No,
position.
I'm talking about drugs. Hold on. I'm not talking about
You're the one
every
who
single
brought
position.
your
I'm
label into
only
it.
wait, hold on. And I'm not talking about every single position. I'm just very specifically talking about drugs because you want to have an incredibly nuanced conversation, right?
On guns.
Well, I didn't get to guns. I'm just talking about drugs.
You just talked about an AR-15 and you said
Okay,
to, like, dunk on
I'm
the
sorry.
conservatives.
That's that comparison.
position on that.
I was trying to make it funny. I'm sorry. You're right. You didn't give me your position on guns. I'm sorry. Are you also? Do you take the same stance on guns? Are you incredibly in favor of limiting your Second Amendment right because of the harm that it could cause other people?
Some regulation on like, okay, here's a regulation I'm for. It's like not even regulation. I think like so like Polar World, one of my like close buddies told me like hand to hand gun transactions isn't documented. I think those should be documented. I do think like some gun regulation is like good, but also I wouldn't be in favor of like a gun ban or like a gun buyback because guns.
Then are you in favor? Are you in favor of a heroin ban? Are you in favor of a heroin ban?
Wait, no,
I haven't like intuitively, I can give you my intuitive position. My intuitive position on heroin is like it's probably bad, and I think a lot of people won't use it if it's banned. So yes.
Okay, so my question is, if you're so I just want to withdraw my apology for my earlier joke because it completely applies. So my question is, why are you in favor of being so restrictive around drugs because they might harm other people's autonomy, but you're not in favor of being incredibly restrictive on firearms that can also harm other people's autonomy?
Okay, but here's the two different things. If a million people have like, okay, so it's about degrees and it's about stopping it early. So even if we make all drugs legal and we make it illegal to do the crime with the drugs, if every single person on planet Earth has already smoked a drug, then it might be too late to stop the crime. Do you acknowledge that? Like banning stuff preemptively other people's autonomy. Wait, okay.
Wait,
so here's the
that
thing.
kind of helps his point, but like you just don't.
No. Here's the thing. Let me lay it out more specifically. Okay, so if a lot of people do drugs, right, and we make drugs legal, but we make the crime illegal. Say a lot of people do drugs and they're high. That makes it a better portion that they're going to commit a DUI, which is like a bad driving instance on drugs. But if we try to stop the crime preemptively, it would have less people do the bad thing on drugs, right?
Yeah, so why don't we just get rid of all guns preemptively to get people to stop killing themselves and shooting other people preemptively? Why don't we just stop that the same way?
Here's the thing. You have to weigh autonomy versus the lives lost. And also, I actually don't think a gun ban would actually decrease gun violence. Like in all.
Okay, and then I'll shut the fuck up. I promise. I'll shut the fuck up for the rest of this panel. Okay, I just want to illustrate that, like, when I ask you about drugs, like, we're very big on the like, okay, well, we need to appeal to this weird consequential. It's like, well, you might be able to harm other people. Like, we need to throw your autonomy aside. Like, blah 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 blah. Like that's that whole argument, which is fine. But then when we switch over to guns, it's like, okay, well, hold on. Now your autonomy is really important, and I don't know if it's worth doing this because your autonomy is gonna be violated if you hurt other people. That's okay. Like, blah blah. I don't want to say that your arguments are totally contrary for these two things, in my opinion. But
yeah,
there are functional differences between the two that you could make the argument that one is.
Stop. Supreme, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that I think there could potentially be merit to this. For example, like, you know, drug use certainly does maybe limit your autonomy in a way that a lot of people don't foresee. Like the idea of growing chemically dependent on a drug. I mean, that's not really a concern with a gun, right? If you just own a gun, like using that gun doesn't set a calendar of events that you have to then use that gun they're on, right? Like a lot of, heroin addicts, people who get addicted to opioids and stuff, they use once or twice and suddenly they're committed to using it for a long period of time. And like their autonomy is,
Right.
these are good arguments to make.
I
about
understand that, but people can people, the first choice to take that drug to also get that chemical dependency on it is still a choice that somebody makes with their full autonomy.
Yeah.
Okay,
True. And like you could argue that as long as they're educated.
Here's the thing that Destiny didn't say. There are way more people under car accidents with like under drug influence. There are way more people than there are school shooters or people who get killed by.
There are plenty of people who commit domestic violence who use guns on their partners, right? Guns are used every day.
More people in car accidents, I guarantee you.
No, I wanted to say, for like the gun ban thing. So I think you're going to say like it wouldn't be practical to just ban all guns because it's impractical, right? That's what you're going to say, the Destiny.
Wait, we weren't talking about pragmatic. Like on a pragmatic level, I think Destiny would also be.
What was your argument against banning all guns? What was your argument?
Argument with banning all guns? It's a way thing. Like, okay, my statistic says like 50 people a year get killed by like an AR-15. That's not enough. But hundreds of thousands of people get like DUIs and like have
right. But you're narrowing the goalpost to one specific type of.
Wait. That kind of begs the question. Because you're saying that a DUI is like a bad thing. What makes a DUI a bad thing? It's just the act of breaking a law always a bad thing?
No. When I say my bad. When I think of DUI, is it not just like car accidents with DUIs? Or is it
no, pretty
my bad.
Okay.
I just mean car accidents.
The argument you might want to make is that like when you're under the influence of drugs, your decision making is compromised or something like that, and that's a way that you've reduced your own personal autonomy, and that there may be a greater likelihood that you do an action that is like intersects with another person's agency or something.
That's implicitly what I said. That's why I'm not in favor of banning cars, but I'm in favor of banning like people high in cars. But there are way more people affected by people on weed driving cars when weed was legalized than there are like mass shootings.
But even still, like banning drugs, like why should if you value autonomy so much, why should you value the state to enforce its law to make it so that these people can use their autonomy to, I guess, by your definition, remove their autonomy?
So it's a wager. So the question I would pose to Marx and Destiny is like, if 50 people get killed by like gun shootings and 50 people's autonomy get lost, is that the same as millions of people getting? I'm not saying millions of people die during like drug accidents, but is it the same as millions of people getting their autonomies lost? Of course not. So we have to wager like the autonomy of the people in the accident and the autonomy of all of America. So in some instances, in some instances, I think drugs have gotten to the point. Like drugs being like alcohol, like I actually think alcohol is kind of a drug too. Like alcohol, marijuana, cocaine.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Okay, I have something to. I have a statistic for you guys. Deaths from drunk driving in 2019 was 10,142. Gun deaths in 2019 was excluding suicide is about 15,000.
Gotcha. But wait. Okay, how many of those were justifiable gun deaths? Because every single gunfighting ends with a good.
Wait, I thought autonomy was above. Wait, can a person's moral actions actually, this is a yes for you, but just in case, can a person's moral actions invalidate their autonomy?
Yeah. Wait. Every single conservative and Democrat. Why are you guys?
No, I know. That's why I said I know. I probably know the answer, but I just want to ask just in case.
Yeah, and no other conservative would disagree with you. Yes.
You just said you just said under Destiny you don't want to be labeled under all conservatives, so I just didn't assume you agreed with all conservatives.
Okay,
yeah, don't shrink from the conservative position.
If someone's robbing your place, you don't have the autonomy to basically do anything anymore. And if you're in like solitary confinement, you don't have the autonomy to do anything anymore. So yes, there are some instances where your autonomy should be revoked. And why? Okay, so here's my question to Destiny: is there such thing as a justifiable gun death? Because you laughed when I remarked on my comment.
Yeah, I'm sure there might be. This whole thing is, man, listen, all of this is just a really hard argument because autonomy is something we talk about like on like TV to make ourselves feel better, but in the reality, like the whole of our policy, the whole of our system, everything we do is about restricting your autonomy as much as possible. We want to be able to make it so that people make good choices. Right now in the United States of America, every single human being that lives here has the autonomy and the ability to be a millionaire if they really do it. If they make the right choices and they try hard, anybody in this country, from the fucking poorest place to the wealthiest place, could grow up to become a millionaire. That is absolutely true. It is listen. Okay, hold on. Let me finish my fucking sentence before the fucking lefties come in here to virtually sing their bullshit. Okay, that is absolutely 1,000,000% true. Okay, you can make the right choice, you can do it. But the reality is that any intelligent person says, okay, well, autonomy as a concept in and of itself is fucking stupid. We're already incredibly limited by the choices that we make. An incredibly poor person that doesn't have the right connections, that doesn't go to the right schools, isn't going to learn the things to endow them with the necessary autonomy to make the decisions they would generally need to in order to become a really successful person. So obviously, people that are in better class are going to be better positioned to do this. So what do we do when we enact policy? We don't make it so that everybody can make every decision. We try to say, like, oh, well, hey, maybe instead of doing drugs after school, we give you more after school programs. Or like, hey, maybe instead of like doing nothing after, high school, maybe we give you easier access to college. The whole point is to like guide people along to make better decisions, whether you're white, black, poor, rich, or whatever. Like a lot of policies designed literally around giving people things to do and not just giving you infinite autonomy. Just assuming that people need infinite autonomy will make good choices. Just patently absurd.
The 15,000. I just real quick.
Please.
The 15,000 number I gave, 15,440. That is specifically for homicides. It's not about defense use. Okay. It's specifically about homicides, murder, unintentional.
Okay. Wick, hold on. Stop for a second. Stop for a second. Wick, jump in for a second. We'll go back to you, Cutsy. Don't worry.
I want to really push back hard on the idea that anyone, if they just make the right choices, could be a millionaire in this country. Do we agree that other choices can affect our autonomy? If so, then you have to agree that no, just making the right choices is not the line. Everyone around you has to allow that to happen, whether they intend to or not. So no, that's nonsense. Again.
Wait, yeah, Wick, he was talking theoretically. Obviously, there's some cases where statistically.
Theory.
Wait, I would like to go back to the.
It is possible that anyone given anyone the right set of conditions could become a millionaire. That was the point, and then said that there was a whole bunch of barriers in the road, like the ones that you mentioned. You agree? There's no.
Yeah, it happens. There, like, how many people come out of like the fucking the poorest place and become like it happens. It's really fucking rare, but it happens. I'm just saying, like,
I was going to say, even looking at the Pew statistics, right? 4% of people in the bottom quintile make it to the top quintile. That's an incredibly low number, but it happens.
Wait, Destiny, was that not your story? Destiny, was that not your story?
A little bit, sure.
Oh, how poor were you before? That's all I want to know. How poor were you before?
I worked like 80 hours a week cleaning carpets, making like $2,000 a month if I was lucky. That was my wonderful fucking existence.
And he made it.
So yeah, what I was saying is, again, deaths from drunk driving, 10,000. Deaths from homicide, 15,000. 2019, the homicide by gun. So it does not. The defensive use of guns was about like 1,500.
Right, but if you're comparing whether we ought to restrict like alcohol.
I'm just saying.
Firearms, there are a lot of other alcohol-related deaths that we'd want to add to that.
I'm sure, but we're talking specifically we're specifically talking between DUIs and murders by guns. So if that is the case, if I'm not reading this incorrectly, then don't you think that maybe the argument about restricting drug use versus restricting guns might be a little bit more complicated than that?
Okay. Cutsy, finish whatever argument you're trying to make, please, and do it now. Like, I don't know. Like, try to wrap it up. Whatever it is you're trying to do.
Okay, so here's the thing. Destiny, so please send me the link, Stardust. I would love to talk further without you. Okay, but Destiny, what do you think a choice is? So if I don't buy all the, me and my friend Polar World were talking if I don't buy all the right stocks and become a millionaire, is that
I'm not talking about buying stocks. I'm not talking about buying stocks.
You said every single poor person has a choice to become a millionaire right now, but that's just not the case.
No, I'm saying that what you could do is, even if you're incredibly poor, right? You could choose to not sell any drugs. You could choose to not have any bad friends. You could choose to attend every single class. You could choose to study for 4 hours a night. You could choose to do, there are a set of things that you could choose to do, but the chances of you making these choices, it is incredibly fucking unlikely because of all of the environmental factors that are pushing you towards other things in your life. No person is this, has this true domain of autonomy. Okay, the idea that you have ultimate autonomy and free choice is this stupid fucking illusion.
But that
we'll sit there and talk about the
interest, though, right?
What?
That includes like the interest for every decision you ever make to be in the pursuit of making $1 million, which may not be the case for most people. Like most people have values that may be different. And like,
sure, I understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying, sure, I don't understand. I'm just saying that
this may be a demonstration of autonomy if instead you're just like
not a demonstration of autonomy. What I'm saying is that we condemn poor people for the choices they make, when the fact is that they had about as much choice as they had over their life as middle class or upper class people had. A poor person that's born poor stays poor throughout school and then ends up poor for their whole life. We condemn them for being fucking morons, for not making themselves wealthy. But a middle class person that is middle class, is born middle class, stays middle class through school, and is middle class their whole life, for some reason we celebrate their life, even though they exerted just as much free will and free choice over their fucking life, and they didn't do anything amazing with it. They just stayed middle class the whole time, and a poor person is the same.
I might be misunderstanding your argument, but
No, stop, cut, sleeve. Go ahead, Wicked.
I might be misunderstanding your argument, but
holy
it
shit, I'm
seems
gonna
like
meet you. Go ahead, Supreme.
Who?
Supreme. No, Supreme. Go.
Wait, did you say
Supreme.
Okay, sorry. I might be misunderstanding your argument, but it seemed like the argument you were trying to make was since people aren't all millionaires, since everybody has the opportunity to be a millionaire and not everybody is, therefore autonomy is something that's not like thoroughly demonstrated or something like that. And my problem with that argument is that, you know, like I think everybody's aware that I'm 35. I'm aware that if I had saved more money from my 20s or whatever, I'd have more money now. But I also have to reconcile the fact that the reason I didn't save that money is because I was busy spending it to pursue other interests that happen to override, the desire to have as much money as I would now had I made those choices. And that these are demonstrations of autonomy that, like, when given the option to either save money for the future or spend it now for like a short-term satisfaction or something like that, that's just what I chose. I don't see how this idea that like because I'm not a millionaire now means I wasn't practicing autonomy or something like that, or exercising autonomy.
Yeah, I'm just saying that your autonomy is highly shaped and highly curbed by like your environment. So like, for instance, like like how to manage your money, not getting into credit card debt, right? Like somebody who is like middle or upper class and the way that they're trained growing up, like getting into credit card debt, for them to do it would take them, they would have to make exceptionally fucking stupid choices to do it because they probably had better financial training their entire life by virtue of the example of their parents and by the training they receive in education to do so. So they're not going to make the bad choice, right? But they're going to go through life thinking like, oh, well, I made good choices. I have good credit. It's like, well, no, you just kind of like follow the path you were on. Whereas for like a lower class person, like a poorer person that doesn't get that training, they might have bad examples. They might make quote unquote poor choices their entire life. But the reality is that it's not like one person made good choices, another person made poor choices. It's more just like we're kind of the product of our environment, and the choices that we have, the quote unquote autonomy that we think we have and that we value is actually like incredibly curbed, incredibly restricted based on the environments that we're in. Like when somebody, for instance, like a lot of my life was really fucked, but I'm not as fucked as some people, right? For me to have grown up selling drugs on the street, I would have had to have done incredibly crazy things to get there in my life. That's not even like a real choice. Now I could have, but I would have to have made some crazy. For other people, though, those choices are like right in front of them. Sometimes they're right at their doorstep. Sometimes they're in the household, in the form of like a parent or a friend that lives with them or a sibling. So I'm just saying that like the quote unquote, we talk about autonomy and choices and all that, but like those are incredibly restricted by environment. Is all I'm saying. I don't think that's that controversial.
Just because we don't make the exceptional choices to go from rags to riches doesn't mean we don't value autonomy as a species.
We don't value autonomy. We value like autonomy is just a tool to get there.
Well, hold on. We can value autonomy also without exercising it the way you're defining it, right? Like earlier, you came up with a hypothetical about a person choosing like a Minecraft hut versus a mansion, right? And that people would generally, if you made the decision for them to make the mansion, like they would be just as happy or something like that. Do you mind running that hypothetical by me one more time?
What I'm saying is that, sure. Okay. So here's what I'm saying. Okay. Is that, let's say there are 3 houses. You could live in 3 houses. Let's say that somebody decided that you were going to live in the best house and it was objectively the best house. Nobody would complain that they didn't have the autonomy to choose the other 2. They'd be like, okay, fine, whatever. Because as long as the best choice is being made for you, you're fine. People value autonomy insofar as it gives you the ability to make what you consider the best choice. Yeah.
I want to put a pin in that part where you said nobody would complain, because I think like the entire American Libertarian Party are people who like, they at least posit the idea that they would complain that they didn't have the choice or something like that, and that they would value that, and they would forgo living in the mansion if it means you remove the choice to live in the hut.
They
or something
do
like
that, but they do that under a bad guise of thinking they value autonomy. What they're really saying, what they really mean, most of them just don't realize it. What they really mean is they think that the choice they make would be better than what's been presented to them right now. They think that if they were to choose to live in like a free association society or without government restriction, they think that they would be happier. Nobody would, in my opinion, now there might be some exceptional people, but nobody would choose to live worse off while valuing that autonomy. I don't believe that. Maybe there'd be like some exceptional rare people that do it, but like I think one of the best examples I can think of this is like onboarding processes for new players. You can make a ton of fucking video games, and anybody that's worked in software development or UX design or whatever will know the exact same thing, right? You can make a new game for great players and you can throw them into it. Everybody's going to quit immediately if you're just thrown into a massive game with a million choices. Nobody likes that. That experience is daunting to a new player. But if you give a tutorial to somebody, if you give them a path to stay on, if you give them classes to choose and you guide that, you make that experience a little bit more rigid, people tend to have a much more enjoyable experience with that, even if they can make some choices because their experience is more guided and they're not overwhelmed with decisions to make.
So I believe that there are values aside from autonomy that people can hold, and that it's a matter of like priority, and there can be too much of a good thing. Like I would never argue that people infinitely value autonomy over everything else. But you know, I think that, I mean, I personally, whatever, the anecdotes are what they are. I personally have made decisions against my own, I guess, material benefit for less restrictions or something like that. I used to work for the federal government. I was an intelligence analyst, and like part of living or working in classified spaces is making a lot of trade-offs to your personal liberties and stuff. And like, I am somebody who made a choice to not continue pursuing that work because I was just tired of having the government up my ass or whatever. Is this not a demonstration that on some level, I valued my autonomy more than like another step in my material benefit or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think it was the autonomy stuff. I think it was the thing that comes after. So for instance, let's say that you worked a government job and you didn't have the freedom to like do anything else. You're like, okay, well, fuck this. I'm leaving because I can't even smoke weed. Fuck this. I don't want to do a federal job. And you leave. And then you're like, okay, well, now I can practice music. Now I can practice art. Now I can do streaming. Like those are you value those things, I think, not necessarily the choice to do those things more. That might seem reductive, I guess. If I could throw like one, like, or if you want to respond to that, and then I can throw like one hypothetical that I think will just solidify this.
So I would just say, if you were to present somebody with two realities, and you show them the future in both of these realities, and in both realities they make the same choice, but in one reality they didn't get to make the choice, they were forced to make that choice, right? Like they were forced into this reality. If you ask that person, which reality do you want, the one where you're forced to make the choice you're going to make anyway, or the one where you had a choice for whatever, like, isn't a person choosing the reality where they get to make the choice themselves just a demonstration that they value the autonomy, whether or not they would exercise it?
Close. I think your example proves the opposite, and it's really close to the example that I was going to give, because I think at the end of the day, what they're looking for outcomes. So here is the example that I would give. Let's say that you could show somebody 10 realities, okay? Let's say that you could hook a machine up to their fucking brain, their balls, whatever the fuck, and this is like, I'm going to measure your happiness. I actually can measure on a graph your happiness level 10, 9, 8, or whatever. Let's say that you had 10 realities laid out before them. Let's say that one of these realities was, this is the ultimate happiness. You've got the best wife, the best house. You get to pursue all of your arts and projects. You get to play the games you want. You get to do everything you fucking want, okay? However, for that reality number 10, you're not really going to make any choice. Now, you might think you are, but every single choice is going to be made for you along the way. But this is where you're going to end up at the end. Then let's say that there are 9 other realities, and you're free to kind of make your own choices and explore where you want to go, but you're going to end up at one of these 9 places, and all 9 of these are objectively in every single measure worse than reality 10. Would you rather do reality 10 where every choice is made for you, end up you live the longest, you're the healthiest, you're blah, 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 or would you rather have the freedom to choose what you want, but your reality at the end of that is going to be worse than number 10?
So I understand this. I think there are a lot of people who would claim. To not make the best reality choice. And to me, I see that as a demonstration that they at least claim, or that they do value it on a conscious level or whatever, their autonomy, whether or not they would actually make that choice. But the problem with this example also is that, like, you are affording the person the autonomy to make this choice to begin with, right? Like,
well, sure, but this is like a context. It's kind of like no Sith deals and absolutes or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, didn't you just make an absolute, or only Sith deals and absolutes? Right?
I understand.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, I agree with you. Most people would say, like, well, I want to choose 1 through 9. But I think really, at the end of the day, I think most people would want 10. They'd say, like, okay, I want the best outcomes, is what I think would.
Okay. Thank you all for being here.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed. But I wouldn't scream and scream. People that do that when they're scared, they're just like, ah! It's just, I don't know why. I just get so beyond irritated. Holy shit.
What
unless I'm playing
you scream like that though?
League of Legends, probably.